Welcome along. It is the Hurling Pod. It is championship time. There are many questions that we need to answer over the next while. Clare have got Shane O'Donnell back. He's in line to return at some point in the championship. Can they retain their All-Ireland title despite relegation in the league? Can Cork, who won the league, finally end that 20-year wait for All-Ireland glory? And after having 4 All-Ireland titles in a row, 5 didn't happen for them last year, Limerick are back with new vigour. And will it be a case of 5 in 6 years? And Kilkenny, remarkable I think, it's 10 years now since they've had All-Ireland glory. They're the questions to be answered between now and July. But the question to really answer is, James Skehill, why do you hate golf so much? Because just as I was hitting record, you went, fuck golf.
Fuck golf. Way to hang a man out to dry there. Like, the whole country's on the golf train right now. I don't hate golf. I just don't like it. Like, is there a difference? There's a huge difference there.
No, there's a bit of a difference. Yeah, okay.
See, I was having this debate with a fella at the weekend, right? And you know who you are, who I was talking to, okay? And I just can't see the production in golf, like. And I can't even see how it's a break. Like, how do you go at a sport, right, where most people, 99% of people who play it are shit, right? So it drives you cracked, like. Well, me personally, it drives me fucking soft. You know, how would you play a game that would annoy you and invigorate you because you're not good at it? Yes, you class it as a break or even a social scene. I don't fathom it.
Is not half the enjoyment trying to improve yourself from that maybe 30 handicap position into being decent?
With the target of what?
Of being better. Of going out and actually enjoying that you're getting becoming a better golfer.
See, this is the logic I was debating with the other lad, right? And saying that who was telling me that a round of golf in a specific venue was €525. Like that's mental illness.
Right, what's the venue?
You've narrowed it. You've narrowed it
down. So what's the venue? Is it worth 500 quid?
All I'll say is that there's a prominent president of a huge country owns it.
For Jesus.
No,
is that Kim Jong-un's golf course in Leitrim, is it?
So, let's leave it there now.
500 quid around at Doonbeg. Bloody hell.
I didn't say that, but yes, I was
sure. You don't have to hide it though, because I mean, if you go onto the website, it probably tells you that. So
I just can't fathom, like, you know. So
Trump is going to tariff you now if you say it's €500. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Could have tariff capitagle. Pints will go up to €18 in the local pub.
There'll be war then. There'll be war after war.
You'd still drink him though. That's the problem.
Well, the pint of capitagle is €5 at the moment. I think he's doing very well to maintain that price.
€5 flat.
Yeah, €5 flat.
Right.
That's impressive.
So if you rock down with €20 cash and you'd have
4 pints,
an hour and a half there to yourself, in and out the door. Grant. But to the golf situation, right? I just don't see. I'm very production based in terms of time.
Okay.
So that's why if I go to a gym, 1 hour gone because there's other things to be at.
Yeah.
Whereas I can't. How can you give 5 hours to travel to a golf course, round the golf, chatting shite about how your round went on, even though it makes no difference. I mean, like what? Like a fella crossed by him, right? And he goes, "How'd you go?" Man goes, "Oh, I went all right." Yeah. What difference does it make? Like, it's not a competition. You didn't win anything. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. But see, a lot of other lads wouldn't understand why you go to a rainy pitch in Ballinasloe in the winter to run young lads around it and all this sort of stuff and train and be home late in the evening and then go on talking on a podcast for 3 hours. Do you know? Like, because some lads wouldn't get that. I find it very hard though I do agree with you. I don't play golf that much, and I just find that because you're hurling and you're doing different things, there is a lot of time. If you want to get good at it, there's a lot of time has to be put aside. Like, and the other side is, like, just going to a golf course, playing around the golf the whole time, you're not really going to get better. Like, you have to go into a driving range, and that's not as much crack, like, as going out on a golf course.
Like, when you go golfing, right, and let's say we play for intense competition, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right, and parish-based, and playing with friends, etc.
Golf is enter an actual competition. So go on. So,
like, what's the game here for the standard golfer here? Like,
what do you mean?
So, like, let's call it a club hurler. Let's equate now the golf situation to the club hurler. What's the standard situation for them? What's their monthly competitions, weekly competitions? How does this shit work?
The open singles is I think is for quite a lot of lads. They're enter open singles, and then there may be other competitions on, but that's generally it. But I think that for a lot of lads, it's the competition of starting off at a handicap of 20 or 22 or 18, whatever it is, and then bringing it down and slowly getting better. Because I think in fairness, it is one of the sports where you can kind of compete with yourself, and then you're competing against other lads. And then the one big thing that I just mentioned, the handicap, you can go out with a person who's 20 shots better than you, but compete against them. So you can do it. You can't do that in hurling. You can't do that in soccer. If someone's better than you, they're just better than you. So, like, there's that part. You can go with an 80-year-old and play golf against them, and they can beat you. Whereas you can't do that. What other sport can you do? But it's a fact.
I think we're going to end up talking you around on this. You'll end up playing for the Portumna Captain Prize at some point now.
So many people have said to me, right, why don't you take up golf? Will you come for round the golf? You know, I'm like, why? Like, you know,
the thing is, though, you sorry to cut across you now, but like I think you would actually enjoy Bryson DeChambeau, for example. Like, as in you were all about, oh Jesus, I can't think of his name for the Patriots.
Gronk.
Yeah. Like DeChambeau to an extent is like a golf version of Gronk.
Really?
Like, yeah. Like he used to enter long drive competitions for age. Like he's all about power and torque and driving the ball as hard as he can.
And grunt.
And would you know the story of DeChambeau as well, Skehill? Not to be disparaging on the man.
Murph.
I'll put it this way. Go on.
I know zero.
Put it this way.
Golf, right.
Google DeChambeau 10 years ago and Google DeChambeau 3 years ago and have a look at DeChambeau.
Was he a bloody porn star or something now?
No, he was a lot of a man. He was just a normal kind of thing. He came back like an absolute. Type in Bryson DeChambeau. What would you say? What would be the best way to phrase this? Well, Bryson DeChambeau
transformation, maybe.
Transformation. Good call.
Yeah, I think you'll like the way he's transformed his PR as well, Skell.
Yeah,
he was kind of seen as he's absolutely huge. He's
huge. Yeah,
himself and Brooks Koepka will be very much, I think, in your wheelhouse here. Like two guys who put on a shed load of muscle. They're a little bit jockey.
They hate each other. Well, they used to. Not so much anymore, I don't think.
DeChambeau as well has totally changed his PR machine around in recent times. So he was really disliked. No one seemed to like him on tour. And then he basically got lads to film for YouTube generally. And this has changed the impression along the way.
He is actually very entertaining on YouTube and Instagram. So he does two things, Skehill. So one thing he does is like he'll go on a course, just now not a professional course, let's say, not from the tips. He'll be basically playing a Joe Soap course. But he'll ask Siri, he'll say, Siri, pick a number between 1 and 14. Depending on what number Siri picks, that's the club he has to use. So whether he's on the tee and he has to use a pitching wedge, grand, or whether he's on the green, or not the green, just off the green, and he has to use a driver or whatever, he'll use it. But he invariably pars the holes. He just shows how a professional can play like a normal person's golf course. And the other one he did lately that was really popular was he has a green out the back of his house. He was standing out the front of his house and he was seeing how many shots it would take before he gets a hole in one by chipping it over his house. He never hits the house. He never Jesus. Oh, like this is the thing. And the thing was, he hired a fella lately. He asked a fella, I bet you can't do it in 50 shots. And he put nets up in front of his house because he thought this fella was going to hit stingers in and break the windows. I think he ran it in 7 shots. And they took DeChambeau like 50 probably, maybe something like that. So he is entertaining. He is. I think you'd enjoy him. You'd like. Yeah.
You like the sound of him already, yeah.
It's just I know everyone's on the McIlroy train at the moment, right? But I just can't. Every time I see him on television, I just think he's a dickhead.
No. Geez, I'm.
Now, I have to reiterate, guys, before I get shot here, right? I don't know anything about golf, but he just comes across like, what accent is that like? What accent is that?
Don't mind this to me is like one of sport's great redemption stories. So you imagine this, Gal, right? I'm going to put it into pure hurling terms here. Okay. You imagine a team win 4 All-Ireland titles quite early on in their run. And everyone expects that they're going to kick on. They've got a great young team. They're still in their early 20s. We're talking about they're actually going to surpass the best teams of all time. And then they have a series of crushing All-Ireland defeats and near misses and losing semi-finals and throwing away big leads. And people start to question, will this group ever win it again as they move to a different period of their career? And even in the All-Ireland final that they will eventually win, at times they do incredibly stupid things and then do wonderful things within the game. And eventually they get over the line after extra time and they win the All-Ireland. And everyone turns around and goes, do you know what, actually, this 5th All-Ireland is even more impressive than what they did before. Okay. In pure hurling terms. So, like in McIlroy's case, last year, threw away the US Open. Played the last hole terribly. He was in the winning position. He was in a good position in the US Open the year before, the Open in 22. He blew up in the Masters when he probably should have won it in 2011. And basically since 2014, where everyone thought that this guy had the world at his feet, he then went 11 years without winning a major. And now only 6 players of all time have ever won all of the majors. He is in rarefied air. It's only happened twice in 50 years. Since man walked in the moon, only 2 people have done this. And the last man to do it was Tiger Woods back in 1990. So it's like this is this absolutely remarkable achievement. 2000. Sorry, 2000, not 1990. Sorry, 25 years ago, 2000.
Yeah.
It's absolutely incredible what he's done. So whether you like McIlroy or not, we've just witnessed something insane. And I make no apologies for us pushing back the pod by 24 hours as a result.
I did watch 6 holes at the final round.
Which 6?
The first 6.
You He should have stayed around and watched the last 6. His approach in 15 and 17 were absolute worldies.
And to actually add in there, Skehill, one other thing that we left out. Like, so there's an element here of when Liv came in, Rory McIlroy was the face of saying, I'm sticking to the traditional golf and not going for money to
which
Arab Emirates.
I watched that.
Yeah.
I watched the thing on Netflix. I don't know what it's called again.
Yeah, longest drive, full swing.
Full swing.
They explain that kind of situation, you know.
Yeah, and then there's the added small things in the middle of it, like where he became the face of that, and then the CEO of golf, or whatever you want to call him, kind of sold out and basically said, well, listen, you can all play inside, you can play both, you can play the PGA and you can play. So like McIlroy would have got most out of all of them, and he took nothing from it. But then there's small things, like so after the Ryder Cup last year, some caddy started mouthing at him, and like he went to go back fighting him. Lowry throws him into a car. It was all caught on camera. But when he lost the US Open last year, he lost to DeChambeau, and DeChambeau put it on the last one to lose it. And afterwards, then a few months later, Rory said something along the lines of like, that he'd like to play DeChambeau again to actually beat him. And DeChambeau said something like, well, you kind of bet yourself that day, basically, that Rory lost it. So the fact that DeChambeau collapsed yesterday and Rory kicks on, like there's 101 things with it that is like, there's lots of stories. There's lots of stories with it. That's why it's so interesting.
I have to retract what I said about him being a ticket, right? I need to use the phrase, he just doesn't seem very likable.
Well, he kind of has been that character for a small bit for some people. Like,
I think it's okay for you to say that. I thought it was really weird. Paul McGinley said it on the coverage last night. So they were celebrating McIlroy, and then McGinley, for whatever reason, talked himself into, well, he divides opinion. Some people don't like him, and then Nick Faldo.
There's no need for it. Yeah,
Nick Faldo with this amazing time. He's like, he's a couple more green jackets to win if he's going to catch up with me. And genuinely, I saw some people saying it was like as if McIlroy's success got in the way of Nick Faldo's enjoyment of the night. Nick Faldo was taking all the credit, Scale. Imagine your under-20s win the All-Ireland, right? And you turn around and go, well, I brought these guys to this position, so this is really a reflection of me.
Yeah.
That was the equivalent of Faldo last night.
Yeah, it was remarkable.
To be, sacked and punched. Simple as that.
Oh, there was some level of ego. Like he kept going back. It was McIlroy, right, fell apart once or twice. And remarkable comeback, and you think you're kind of going, God, that's an amazing mental strength, unbelievable shot and all this. Nick Faldo was like, I remember in 1990 when I threw it away and I came back, I just walked onto the next tee and I was like, shut the fuck up, Nick Faldo. Nobody cares. A lot of us were toddlers at the time that this happened. And then like at the end he goes, yeah, I remember. Faldo has a kind of an academy thing or something, doesn't he?
The Faldo Tour he had, I think.
The Faldo Tour is like, he goes, yeah, sure, look, I remember seeing McIlroy coming through the Faldo Tour, a tour that really kicked off his career to be. You're sitting there going, you ever shut up, will you? Like,
okay, can I say he's a dickhead?
Complete.
Yeah. But I actually find it really entertaining though. Particularly when he says things like, I remember when I actually hit that shot far better when the pin position was in a similar way. If he'd hit it the way I did, he's probably already the champion. Like that was the kind of vibe.
Is he delusional though, is he?
No, I wouldn't say delusional. Faldo was an incredible golfer. It's just he has an incredible ego.
Yeah, right. As I would say, a lot of golfers probably do that are successful. That's no harm, but they kind of have to have
do you think, Murph, that every individual sports person, whether it be F1, tennis, golf, you name it, has to have this amazing ego?
Yeah.
I'd imagine,
in some form or another.
Arrogance, really. Yeah.
As long as it's not dialed up to
14 minutes talking about golf. So congratulations, Rory. Yada yada yada. Let's talk some hurling.
Right.
Sorry, no.
Great chat. So Shane O'Donnell is going to make some appearance, Murph. We're not sure how much during the championship. So he said earlier today he was out doing press, mentioned to you last week, once he was going to the Sport Gosh launch, it was always likely he was going to give a revelation one way or another. Either I'm coming back or I'm out for the season. My suspicion always was when he was booked in, that meant he's not out for the season. So what Brian Lohan said at the time, back in February, was true. Because the feeling at the time was that he was going to be ruled out for the entire season. Shane O'Donnell clearly has not gone under the knife. Shane O'Donnell said today in a couple of the interviews he's not gone back into non-contact training with Clare. He has to wait a week or two to find out where his body's going to be at, but he's confident he can play some part during the year. 4 weeks is what he was talking about. So if we take the breaks into account, we take the first game this week, realistically, even if he does come back flying, the Limerick game in Munster is probably the first game that he's going to play. This is a boost we didn't expect. A few weeks ago, we thought Shane O'Donnell ruled out entirely.
Yeah, and I think quite a bit of it was the just the lack of information and clarity. Like Shane O'Donnell actually gave a really good explanation from what I heard today of not only the mechanism of the injury, but his own understanding of it. Like, so he said he injured it in the All-Ireland final last year, falling backwards or something to that effect. And he said it was basically an injury that he's kind of had before. He's constantly had this elbow, shoulder injury. I think it's more a shoulder injury than anything. And he said when he went back to the club then and he actually used a term like these long lever kind of shots. So basically he was striking off the other side and his arm was reaching. He kept feeling this soreness and this weakness creep into it. And he said that's kind of, I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically where it came from. So like once he said that, you kind of got a better understanding as to, okay, well, that's the nature of this injury. I don't think a lot of us knew a few weeks ago what the nature of it was. And then when there's just talk of an operation or not an operation, like there's huge speculation around that. But even he mentioned 2 of the games. He said, well, I definitely won't be back for those. But like straight away, once he said that, I said, okay, well, I mean, that sounds like I'll definitely be back. Even though he didn't say that, I appreciate that. But it sounded very much like he only mentioned 2 games. He didn't say Munster. He just went, I won't be back for those games. Which everything after that seems to be kind of taken a week by week. But by the sound of it, we'll see him at some stage. And it may very well be, like you said, Will, that Limerick game could be the one. And I think nearly with an injury like that, certainly from experience, and Skehill, you may have had it as well, where you kind of put a bullseye on, if someone tells you you're going to be out for 6 weeks, you put the bullseye on, well, what's happening in 6 weeks' time? I'm going to be ready for that. And you're slowly watching your body get better up to that stage. So you could be right in saying that that's the game he's looked at. And it'd be a fair game to return back into if he does.
Yeah. The thing is, Skehill, because of the way he's been the last few years, and he mentioned this in the interview with the GA website, that he's used to having long layoffs. So for the league last year, it was 6 to 7 weeks of his own work, and then he came back right for the league final, and we know how the summer played out for him. I appreciate that obviously he's been struggling with his injury, and how much work he's been able to do has probably very much been confined by the lack of movement within his shoulder. But if he's doing a little bit of work at the moment and he comes back, he's one of the players I would actually trust to come back at a reasonably high level without needing much of a lead-in because of his history.
Yeah, I agree with you. But did you say there in your opening remarks about Shane that he didn't go into the knife?
It seems not, no.
So then why is he so long off injured?
I don't know. I mean, didn't you say before that if you're going with a conservative approach?
Well, like if you go with a conservative approach right now, you should be back relatively immediately.
Okay.
You should be, because you've done no, let's say, procedure or because the socket essentially. Now, I'm not a surgeon, but if you get the same issue that I had, exactly what I mean.
Sorry.
Just to clarify.
just to clarify here, an operation took place in early February. Sorry about this. So apparently he had an operation. I don't know the nature of the operation and whether that was different, but you were saying before, if you got an operation like that, you're talking 5-6 months rather than being back.
So I was saying there was 2 kinds of operations from my experience. One was the open incision, which is basically flipping cut down the front of your shoulder. That was 24 weeks that I was told at the time. Or there was the keyhole approach, which was 3 or 4, a small incision to say, and gut keyhole, which was going to be 16 weeks. So it sounds like to me that he went the keyhole route. And so 16 weeks, let's say, is obviously 4 months on from mid-February, which would line himself up to the dates that's been shouted. But to go back to your question, so if he's in that situation whereby he's got that procedure and he's the clock ticking between 12 and 16 weeks, you would trust someone like him to have his mind and body right after a long layoff, regardless of injury, regardless of availability, regardless of what he was doing, let's say from a professional or college standpoint, which he's done over the last number of years. He just seems to be able to get right at the right time. And normally, like the normal 5/8 for a player, to be honest, would need a good run in. He'd need some league minutes. He'd need a couple of challenge games. He needs a couple of championship games. Then he'd be up to speed to what we class as his normal level or his regular level. But he just seems to be this kind of enigma. And he's a rarity, to be honest. They're not like you can imagine there might be some players that could get to his level, but it's rare. There's very few. And we can name some very big names, guys, across the country that have had injuries and have come back and looked rusty. But I can't say with hand on heart, I can't say that when I watched Shane O'Neill or Shane O'Donnell last year that he was in any ways rusty in any game he played.
No.
He always looks sharp. He always looks like his athleticism and fitness doesn't drop a beat. His touch is always shit hot. We know that all the time. His ability to claim ball in the air, primary possession is class. Finishing is perfect. So it's like, what has he been doing in his own time that has gotten to this level? And obviously he has that routine off to a T. So you're right, Will. If any man can do it, he can do it.
Yeah, look, you've experienced with this. So Is there any risk? Because I think everyone will have seen this today and went, great. If he's going to be back potentially as early as 4 weeks from now, this is fantastic news for the championship, unless you're one of the teams playing against Clare and playing against O'Donnell here. Is there any risk of a relapse or this injury getting worse if he comes back and takes a belt? Or how safe are you that period away from, say, having, even if it was a more minor surgery than first thought, back in early February?
So when he says he's coming back, I can only assume that he's going back into training. Because right now I personally can't see him doing any training. I'd imagine he's doing physical rehab, which he's strengthening and getting the flexibility back into the muscle and just strengthening everything around it, basically. But when you come back, there's two things to contend with. One is, the stability of the injury and the stability of the surgery done, and two is your mental stability. Because before you can take a hit on that again, you need a bit of time. You need minutes. You need a few training sessions. You need to find out, let your subconscious take over as opposed to your conscious, because your conscious will always protect you. You always kind of preserve yourself in terms of context, especially the outfield. But you have to get to a stage whereby your conscious gets moved away and your subconscious kicks in, and you can play away as normal as you've done in the years previous. So that takes a bit of time, So when people say he's going to be back and they mark an X marks the spot milestone date on the calendar, he's back now to full flight. I'm saying, hold on, he needs 3 or 4 weeks at least, I would say, to get his body and mind, on the same level. If that makes sense, you know what I'm saying? So when you say return to play in mid-May or whatever, I'm heading towards June myself, unless he's done something that has never been seen before, because the shoulder is so sensitive, and we're in a very high contact game. So I can't see it. Like, I've seen numerous rugby players over the years, like professional athletes who've dislocated their shoulders and can't get back in the same time frame that he's touted to be back in. So I'm not sure what he's even doing.
Yeah, I'll give you the full quote from there. He said, I don't have a very solid answer for that, really, when he was asked about the timeline. He said, I don't have any dates or anything like that at the moment. It's coming along well, but I'm still a bit away, to be honest. So I don't have a date that I can give you. I'm still kind of working with physio, stuff like that. I'm actually coming to the point where in the next week or so, I should be able to hammer out and understand where I'll be. So that was him going to see, probably experts again to see where he's at. He said, it'll be any time between 4 and 8 weeks, I'd say, still in it. So yeah, that's kind of the timeline I'm looking at. And then he confirmed as well that he never intended to play in the league this year anyway. He was going to take that break one way or another. So he said he was going to miss it, with the agreement that in recent seasons he had stepped back and the management were fine with him coming back in for championship time. So he knows his own body, Murph, and I suppose he knows what's going to be required.
Well, Mac Hansen, just as an example, Mac Hansen, the Irish winger, like he just got his shoulder there at the end of last year. 4 months. That struck him. Professional athlete, 4 months. So that's post-surgery, mind you, sorry. So it's like, you know what I mean? How is he doing this?
Yeah. But like, he must know, Murph, though, he is reasonably close to returning, because you wouldn't want to give that false hope of coming back and saying, because he could easily have gone today and said, look, I'm not 100% sure where I'm at. I'll do well. Clare will really have to get to the back end of the championship if I have any chance of playing. But once he starts dropping in 4 to 8 weeks return, you start to think, okay, he's definitely coming back.
Oh yeah, completely. Like I would have expected a far more conservative statement than what he did. He really put it out there. So for me, and the one thing I would say maybe, Skehill, is like that. It is complicated. Like it's a double-edged sword. But the shoulder is a complicated area. Like, I mean, it can be very hard to get right. But again, unless you actually know the specific details, it mightn't be the biggest problem in the world that he had. It might have been just a niggling thing where they're like, listen, we need to go out there and just clean it out. It might be a small clean out. Whereas, like, when we talk about, if I be thinking of Mac Hansen and these lads, or, rugby players, I'd be thinking that they'd be nearly blowing the shoulders out because they have them completely strapped up. And plus as well, they don't use their shoulders in the same, like, they're going into heavy contacts, let's say. Whereas Shane O'Donnell might be able to avoid that. But on Shane O'Donnell's side, his striking then, like, rugby players don't have to strike. So I just think the whole thing is so complicated that I'm just going that, well, if Shane O'Donnell, Dr. Shane O'Donnell is saying that, man who'll probably be in space at some stage, is saying that, I reckon I'll be back in 6 weeks' time, 8 weeks, ballpark, if that's what we're taking from it. Well, I'm taking from it that it was a light enough surgery. It was something that he needed just to bring him along. And from that then, that it's very much, like it was 10 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever number you want to put in it. That seems to be where he's going with. Yeah, I'm just putting it out there that if it's a case that he's saying it, I'm going with it.
Yeah, I'm imagining more if it was a partial dislocation as opposed to full, because I've never heard of him fully dislocating his shoulder.
Yeah.
I've never seen any report, any television clip picture of him with the shoulder fully out, or right. So I'm thinking, was it partial? Which means look, again, I'm not a surgeon. I'm just guessing, to be honest, from personal experience.
Yeah,
Look,
it would have been gas though if Shane O'Donnell did go in for the operation and you did walk in as the surgeon. He's like, "Oh no, this is terrible." I said, "Did I mention I'm a surgeon?"
I'm going to make sure you're going to miss the championship. But in the same breath, right? There's very few players, and like this is just me personally, that I like. Every time I watch him, I'm saying he's going to do something different I haven't seen before. You know, he's one of them. So I'm delighted. You know, that he's coming back. Great to see him.
I think something that you said as well, Will, that you're saying that I think both of you probably said at this stage was that if there's any player that can go back and actually have an impact, I think Shane O'Donnell is probably the one player that needs the least amount of ball to have an impact on a game compared to anyone else. Like for anyone else, we would generally talk of 20, 22 possessions to be man the match. Like for example, Gearóid Hegarty in 2022, I think it was All-Ireland final against Kilkenny, 22-23. He was man the match. Whichever one he was man the match in, I think he had 24 possessions man the match, like an astronomical game. Shane O'Donnell could get 7 possessions. He could score 1-2 and he could set up another few scores. That's an enormous impact on a game just by the nature of how he plays the game. Like he gets the ball and has no routine in terms of what he's going to do, but has electric pace, is able to shift a tackle and pop off a ball. And because of the nature of the player he is, players are drawn to him. So players draw into him and he pops it off. We've seen numbers of scores he's gotten. I'm thinking particularly the goal against Galway down in Semple Stadium, was it 3 years ago maybe, where he kind of just dribbled and he changed direction a few times. That's his nature of play. Whereas I'd be saying, sorry, I apologise. I was I use Gearóid Hegarty against Kilkenny there previously.
That was 7 years ago, right?
7 years ago. But if I'm thinking the likes of Tony Kelly or TJ Reid or anyone else, I'm kind of saying that they need a few more possessions to have a real impact because of the nature of how they play the game. So yeah, look, I just think that if there's a player to come back, Shane O'Donnell needs the least amount of ball than any player in the country to actually dramatically impact the game.
Yep. Who knew? I thought we were going to get to Galway versus Kilkenny before we had the two guys going at each other. Instead, it took golf and it took him mentioning a goal from 7 years ago. So this is where we got to. But it brings in nicely because a lot of people have said when they saw the news earlier on, maybe people who are not of a Clare persuasion went, well, who knows? By the time O'Donnell comes back, maybe Clare are already out of the championship at that stage. Maybe they're going to Limerick fighting for their lives after a couple of poor results at the start. We've got quite the fixture to kick things off on TV, 2 p.m. this Sunday. Munster Senior Hurling Championship, 9 months on from the All-Ireland final. Clare won by a point in one of the best All-Ireland finals we've had in recent years after extra time. The script is intriguing when you consider what Cork did by scoring 6-20 there just a few weeks ago in the National Hurling League. But I think every Clare supporter was clinging at that point scale that will be different when it comes to Easter Sunday. Is it going to be different on Easter Sunday, or are Cork going and storming Ennis again?
Yeah, I before I start, I need to put an asterisk to this, saying that all of us, collectively, the three of us, over the last 3 seasons of the Hurling Pod, I don't think we've got a Munster prediction in terms of who exits the Munster Championship correct. I don't think we have.
As in, who's going to win?
No, winning matches is one thing, but I think actually...
You mean the overall table? Yeah.
The overall table, we've got the order ever correct. We've picked Munster finals, of course.
But the order, not just the teams that are going to get out.
The teams is one thing, but the actual order we've never got right.
I can't remember. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was. We haven't been great now, to be honest, Mark. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Well, the only reason I asked that is because I did get last year right in terms of the teams getting out, but I couldn't have a clue about the order. I don't even remember what you said. You could have been the same, but maybe not. I don't. I
just remember I wasn't right. Is that fair enough?
Let's go back
to okay.
Pretty sure I had the 3 counties, but I'm pretty sure I had Cork in second place last year, which is wrong. They were third. Benny, go on.
Okay. So talking to a man today, he says to me, "Have Cork reached the Limerick status now at the moment?"
Hold on, who is this man?
He sounds like
he's my uncle, right? So chat my uncle, right? And he's an avid golfer too. And he's Rory, yada yada yada. He was giving out. He was in bed at 2:00. Watched him put on the green jack. I mean, or his choice. But anyways, so we got talking hurling, of course. I had to pull it back to hurling. Got him to the Munster Championship. Didn't even get talked about the Leinster Championship. And he says, "Have Cork reached the Limerick status now at the moment?" And I was thinking, like, so again, this podcast is evidence-based approach. Let's put that aside. But like, I'm not going that far just yet. Have they the nucleus, let's say, and the ingredients to reach Limerick in time? I'd say absolutely yes. But you're talking about the best team ever, to a degree. So let's start there. What are Cork come to town with? They're coming to town with heavy momentum and a huge squad that they can. If you were to pick the 6 forwards a minute from Cork, I think you'd probably struggle. You'd probably pick the inside line pretty easily, but the half-forward line, there could be one or two spots, particularly on the wing, that you'd say, right, is Dalton going to play? Is Healy going to play? So they've got an embarrassment of riches at the moment. And it's a very, very tough task for the Clare defence, who faced up against this Cork forward unit only a couple of weeks ago with a lot of their starters. You know, you might remember back to that game. He was back. I think the number was 5, lads. Was it 5 of the 6 Clare backs were starting plus the goalie? Pretty sure Jim O'Brien was the only one that wasn't playing. Pretty sure. But again, I want the correction, but I'm pretty sure they moved Cleary out. You know, Conlon was playing. You know, McInerney was playing. They're all playing. Quigley was playing, and they shipped 620. So that was a tough day at home. And that's against the unit that has since probably gotten better. You know, so Cork are scoring goals and not conceding them. They haven't conceded a goal in the last 3 games, I think. And then Will, you were saying last week they've scored 13 in a row. So the balance there is 13-0. You know what I mean? And like that's
at the business end of the league. So the qualifier game basically for the final and the final. So it's no mean feat to do that.
It's amazing to think, right, that they've scored in goals only in the last 3 games, you know, enough to win a couple of games. Like, do you know what I mean? When you consider they've scored 13 goals, almost 40 points, you could say. That's an amazing statistic, just on goals alone. So to stop that firepower, that's where you have to start. You have to, like, Clare have to become extremely hard to beat, first thing, and then get through the Cork defence, which we know have been acting wisely over the last couple of weeks. They've been acting really well, and they've seemed to got their house in order. You know, not seem to, they have got their house in order. So who's going to win this game? I think all roads lead to Cork. All fingers point towards Cork, and there's no evidence to say that Clare, you know, would turn them over. But in saying all that, and I said this a couple of weeks ago, you might remember, if there was one county that I was saying in all of Ireland that had to produce this abnormal performance, totally out of character and out of form, it should be Clare. Whatever's in them. And I go back to that performance, Limerick lads, when they bet Limerick and the day John Connell's brother's wedding. I think it was his brother. That performance that day, topping over Limerick, like that to me was as far out of the norm as I've ever seen in sport. Never mind hurling. So for them to do that was amazing at the time. Is it in them? It certainly, absolutely is. Do I predict it's going to come out of the weekend? I'm going to say no. I think it's a Cork victory all the way.
Yeah. We're chatting to John Conlon on last week. I think it's going to air on Off the Ball on Wednesday of this week. And it's kind of bringing up to him that, like, Clare's record in the round robin is intimidating. And also Clare's record against Cork is intimidating, which a lot of Clare fans have been pointing out. Well, we've all been talking about how great Cork are. So 2021, Cork beat Clare in the qualifiers. Last time they've beaten them. So that was 319 to 123. It took extra time last year, but Clare beat them in the All-Ireland final. They beat them in the round robin, you'll remember, in that really high-scoring game, 326 to 324. And Clare beat them in the Munster round robin in the 2 years previously as well, 2023 and 2022. Like, to me, Murph, that indicates a lot of the players are still the same, because it's a very short period of time. We're not talking about, you know, they've won 4 of the last 5 and it goes back to 2011 or something like that. These are all recent championship meetings with a lot of the same players who are going to be involved. And the reality is that Clare have had Cork's number.
They have. And Clare have been really impressive over the last years, particularly when it comes to actually, once Munster comes around, it's like they turn over a new leaf, and they just suddenly kick off, and it's like, Jesus Christ. Like some of their performances during the league of the times that they've been impressive in the championship have been really poor. And, you know, it's probably fair enough to say that of the league that they've come through. It hasn't been an impressive league, obviously. And obviously getting relegated then as well. But I also said that I think they're one of the teams that will come out of Munster. But the funny thing about Munster is that, and you could say it for Leinster actually as well, we'll get across to that in a while, the first game is not the be-all and end-all either. You know, obviously at the moment, it's the most important thing on the horizon at the moment. But if you go back, Cork out Munster last year, they lost the first 2 games. I'm fairly sure I'm right in saying that. They lost the first 2 games. And it was kind of this thing of they suddenly went, well, we're under pressure here now. And they kicked on and they got the bit of momentum and off they go. If you're looking at coming into this game, Cork are only 3 weeks off the back of winning the league final. Look really impressive. Not shipping any injuries. They actually have players coming back, and then they've beaten Clare really well in Ennis. I do believe we'll see a better performance from Clare, but it may just be a game too early for them at the moment. Completely, again, as Skehill says, completely open to be proven wrong. But when you look at all the metrics there to say that, well, what way is this going to go? If this was 6 weeks ago that Cork hadn't played a match in ages, you say, well, maybe they would have lost the momentum. They'll be carrying momentum from that. And the thing is that if Cork go up there and Clare beat them, it does actually, Cork are actually in the position now where it may cause a question mark to happen with Cork. And I don't think they're there yet. Like, I don't think they're going to let that happen yet, because I think they've improved since the All-Ireland final last year. I really do think that they've they've built on, as good as they were last year, they've actually built on that a small bit more. And there's just this confidence that you can't just put your finger on it. It's just interwoven through the team.
At the moment.
Yeah. And when you see that swagger in the Cork team, that's traditionally what we associate with Cork, that it is this swagger about it. And when they have their backs up like that and they don't care who's in front of them, now we're dealing with a really dangerous, potent team. So for me at the moment, I'm going, I think Cork are going to beat Clare at the weekend. I think it's a match probably too soon for Clare. But I think we'll see a better performance from Clare than we would have seen as their the par for the course that they did during the league. But like that, it'll probably be good performance and then kick on into league. I still think, or into the rest of the championship. I do think Clare will come out of Munster, but Cork are fairly formidable at the moment. And you look at the bookies will agree with you.
Yeah.
Skehill, your numbers, by the way, in those last 3 games.
Yeah.
So Cork scores 1366, 620, 422, 324 against Clare, Galway, Tip. So they won those 3 games by at least 12 points and didn't concede a goal in any of them. So as much as people might get annoyed about Cork getting hyped up, particularly Cork supporters seem to really be worried about the hype currently. You can't. But that's ridiculously impressive.
Yeah, like this is like Man City or one of these teams scoring 5 goals a game, is beating everyone by an average of 4 or 5. Like
this is Leinster in the Champions Cup right now.
Yes, it's going to garner praise, and rightfully so. To see what we're seeing is fantastic performances one after another on a consistent basis, which wasn't associated with Cork over the last number of years. That's all a fair analogy, So when we see Cork turn a corner, and like Murph said, improve from Ireland, fully agree with you, Murph. They've improved from Ireland last year. Now, question I have to say is, and I'm going to open towards the panel, and this is where my mind is going. If you're Brian Lohan at the minute, right, are you if you stick with the same, tactic or the same shape, right, and the same personnel in the same positions, are you a bit overly proud then? Like, should not be paying in my head? Like, do you see a situation whereby if Darragh Fitzgibbon operates at 11, which he has been doing recently, in and out of 11, that means, let's say, Cathal Malone can't pick him up, which he did last year in final and cleaned him out. In fairness, he did.
He did.
That's a big piece of Cork's, I suppose, armoury freed up. Do you know what I mean? So what does Lohan do to counteract that? Because we see Fitzgibbon and we see the likes of Barrett just going where they are, going where they like, you could say. Whereas Clare had this ability to get their half back line midfield tighten up in them areas. Now does Lohan have to make a slight little tactical change? Does he?
What tactical change would you make then?
I hate to use the words, right, but does he adopt like a situation whereby he frees up John Conlon and adopts the 7th defender? Because Cork are so potent right now. Like, does he say? And I'm only throwing it out for the chat, but like, does Lohan have to say, right, we were porous the day we played Cork? The other 2 teams, you could say, were they porous? No, they were forced to be porous because Cork were so good. So like it's not like that. What happened in QC Park a few weeks back was a once off. It has been since proven it wasn't a once off. It was a regular occurrence, I'm afraid. So if you're looking at that from an opposition perspective, do you say, have I to make a tactical adaptation to my team to counteract Cork's potent attack? Saying to yourself, geez, if you say no, we'll be fine with the 6 backs we have. Geez, is that a bit proud? Is that your pride getting in the way? And I can see, look, they won their Ireland. Don't get me wrong, but they're not coming from the best place. Which I think is very fair for people to say now. They're not coming from the best place. So they haven't had the best preparation to run in.
They're just after losing 5 games. So yeah.
Which is fair to say, right? I don't want people to jump down my throat here, particularly Clare fans. But like, I'm looking at that, let's say, if I'm looking at it from a manager's perspective, going, geez, we need to stop these guys first and foremost. Stop them first, didn't build our way into the game. If you go 15-15 and they strike you 2 goals in the first half, you're in trouble, kid. You know what I mean? Like, so if Fitzgibbon was on Conlon, Fitzgibbon is going to try and bring Conlon for a spin. He's going to try to take him out of the 6th position all the time and open up avenues for goals. That's what's going to happen. And so Clare can't let that happen. They need to give Conlon protection somehow. Somehow you need to. So if you Fitzgibbon at 11 and Hayes at 14, and you can't protect your middle, you're in trouble. You're in big trouble. So I'm just wondering, is Lohan going to make a tactical change to make sure that doesn't happen?
Yeah. What happens if they decide to put in extra protection and Fitzgibbon comes out a bit, and it's Barrett that attacks Conlon?
So if you have extra protection, first of all, you want to get your best man marker on the most dangerous person. Right now, the most dangerous guy who seems to be operating is Fitzgibbon for me, okay? So Malone has been proven to do well on Fitzgibbon when he tags him. So if you can free up a player to tag Fitzgibbon man-to-man all day, you can say, Conlon, hold your 6. You know what I mean? So then it comes down to your team selection then, Will. Do you pick Malone in your traditional midfield? Do you pick him at wing back? Do you know what I'm saying? So you put them in such a way that you allow Malone to go free and then have an extra player in so you can have your six backs. So what you essentially have is you have your six backs, your two midfielders, and a Cathal Malone following Fitzgibbon, wherever he goes. Then you maintain your six positions, you maintain a two-man midfielder, but you've only got 5 forwards. So what's the lesser of two evils? Is it 5 forwards, or is you're going 6 and 6 at the back with the potential of conceding goals? For me, it's 5 forwards.
Okay.
5 forwards. You can transfer up the pitch with a couple of wing forwards, midfielders going from an attacking perspective, but she's getting back. If you don't have the numbers in defence, it's very worrisome against this Cork attack. Just me. This is me personally looking at it.
You can pick it up there, Murph. What would you do?
Yeah, well, I do think they'll want Conlon they'll want him to stay in and around that 45. They want him pushing up because I think there's 2 reasons for that. One, Conlon plays his best hurling when he sits back and kind of break left or right onto ball or support other players on it. And the other side is that if he steps forward, well, then suddenly you have grease lightning inside, where there's no protection. And these lads, these Cork full forward line, regardless of what version of them see or what combination of them we see, are just so well balanced and so well capable of the moment of just winning that 50-50 ball in, no hassle. They're communication, or not even communication, they're understanding between the lads who are delivering the ball to that full forward line. I think one of the things Lohan will be looking at is, I do want Conlon exactly from a defending point of view, but also from a platform for us driving forward. I think how they do that is actually what you're saying there. Cathal Malone, like at the start, it won't be unusual if you see Conlon out at wing back or wherever while they're settling. Because if Cathal Malone's going to follow him and Fitzgibbon wants to stay there, I think that is the first thing you have to do. Like, Fitzgibbon is so influential at the moment. Like, we're talking about Shane O'Donnell and what he does. What Fitzgibbon does at the moment is outlandish. Like, I mean, how much ball he gets on. And the importance of disrupting him, it's not the defeating the Cork, but it's certainly a starting point. If you could pick 3 things you could do how do we stop Cork? If they're going, right, stop them getting goals, try and halt Dara Fitzgibbon, and pick another one for yourself then. But so I think, first of all, you have to do that. But I think what Brian Lohan, and I don't think Brian Lohan is too proud to do that, because like, he's won an All-Ireland, and he's won an All-Ireland, I think, by going, well, what's necessary for the team? And he's dropped boys, and he's brought boys in. He's taken lads off after 20 minutes. I'm thinking back, it was 2 or 3 years ago, was it Adam Hogan or someone, I can't even remember who it was, at cornerback down in Thurles, took him off after, was Rory Hayes. And Rory Hayes had been going well. He took him off after 20 minutes. For whatever reason, I don't think Hayes is going well. We've seen that in Brian Lohan. But I think the trick with Brian Lohan here is making it look like they are being proactive. So let's say it's putting Cathal Malone on Dara Fitzgibbon. That's not us being very defensive. That's just us putting a like for like on him, a lad with a heap of legs that can follow Fitzgibbon. And then Conlon, you might find yourself wing back for quite a while, but you're smart enough to try and figure out how do you get back into the centre then and start dictating from there. So I do think to do it. And I also think that a big part you're going to see then, and this is something Clare do anyway, is the 2 half forwards, let's say there's 2 wing forwards, breaking for that midfield when they don't have the ball to try and, if they're in the middle there, and let's say you have David Fitzgerald or whoever coming from that position in to try and clog up the channel there for Cork running through. Well, I think you're going to see that big time. So he's going to be saying, look, Cathal Malone's going to be following, Conlon's going to be sitting, but those half forwards, you need to get in there and disrupt that middle area so that Fitzgibbon isn't running straight through the middle, or you haven't got, just lads breaking through the middle, Barrett or whoever. So I think there's a few things there, and look, I think it's just necessary for Clare at the moment. I don't think you can go out. I don't think any team at the moment can afford to go out in the championship and not pay a small bit of attention to what Cork are doing. As in, absolutely, outline your own game. But I think everybody at the moment is going, okay, well, we need to take tabs of Fitzgibbon. Likewise, if team is playing Clare, they're going, who's taking Tony Kelly, lads? That's just the equation you're doing. So I do think Skehill outlined it there. I agree with him. I do think there's a few movements there. And the big part is that will they be able to influence it enough that Conlon gets to sit where he wants to sit? Or will it be a case of Cork drag them so much that they just leave that space open? That'll be the big tester.
Mm-hmm. I feel we get into prediction territory here. And again, our predictions in the league were spotty. I think
fair point.
All 3 of us appear to be coming down on the side of we expect Cork to carry on with the league form that they've shown and probably win this game, but we still expect that Clare are going to get things right throughout the group stage and will still qualify. Is that fair, Murph?
That's fair for me, yeah. I'll jump on board that. One of those for me.
What are you, Skehill?
The coverage is bad there. I didn't hear what you said, so we'll move on to the next point.
A rare place where all 3 of us are in agreement about this, but Skehill is afraid of facing the Clare fans.
That's unusual now, actually, might I say. It's quite unusual for Skehill to...
No, I I think the 1 and 2 is going to be Cork and Limerick, to be honest. I think the 5 is going to be Waterford. I think it's going to come down to the Tip and Clare game. I think.
Yeah.
I think Tip are going to. I think Tip and Clare are actually going to mirror each other's results, if I'm honest.
Ooh, right, that game bang smack in the middle.
I think. Important, so. Again, I could be wrong, but I just think that Tip and Clare could mirror results.
This is what you're here for, Skehill. Yes, you're here to give your valued opinion.
Yeah. Did you notice that? I have one more question to ask, Murph.
Yeah, go on.
Right? Do you notice how many goals come from the 12 and 15 side of Cork's attack? That side of the pitch. It's just something I noticed. Like
I haven't until you said it now. I haven't really. No.
Yeah. I'm going to look at that side. I just think Barrett is always coming in there. Fitzgibbon's picking up that side. You know, like I've just seen so many goals. I don't have the specific number after 13 now, mind you. I will look it up, to be honest.
Well, Hayes' goal last year, Downey's goal in the All-Ireland final as well. Who else are we thinking there? We had Fitzgibbon's goal against Tipperary? Galway.
3 against Clare. There was 1 against Tip, there was the one. It's like so much ball.
And even Toomey. His one was from that side, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Shot across the keeper. Yeah.
They're all coming. Like not they're all. A lot of them are coming that side.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, do you overload that side and block them off the far side?
Pile up everyone on that. Overload one side.
And the puck out. Shove over to your right. Head over to your right. Give it to the Cork corner back on the left. Give him to number 2 and say, right, shoot down this side and see can you get us from there. Because it goes against their natural striking. I think anyway.
Watch them go and shift it the other side now and bang one in the other way.
Oh, God, well they will.
By the way, just when you think about Skehill not holding back, John S. was back in contact on the Spotify comments, quite a few of them from last week. He said, FFS, as we can translate that. James, I was hoping for a spiteful response with more ducking and diving. I don't appreciate that honesty. Jokes aside, lads, keep up the good work. That was where Skehill last week called out some of the Galway players for misdemeanours, which I don't think John S. was expecting. I think he was expecting Skehill to be talking out of both sides of his mouth, and he wasn't. So,
I've never seen him talk out of both sides of his mouth.
In one direction he does.
Yeah, nice to hear from John S. again. So here we go. We talk about recent records. Tipperary against Limerick is the 4 p.m. game. GA Plus, let the debate continue. But we do have quite a few matches on this weekend. So GA Plus's first hurling game of the Championship Sundays, at least, will be this game, which is Tip and Limerick. I did see some people complaining both on the YouTube and on the Spotify that there's actually very few games in the Leinster Championship which are slated to be on GA Plus. I think they're picking a game at the end of it, but generally they're not showing too many, at least in the schedule at the moment. So we shall discuss that as we go through. Let's just get to weekend 1 first. But Tipperary haven't beaten Limerick since 2019, which is a round robin game. Limerick have won the 5 meetings since. A lot of those games have won in the second half. There's been a very strong trend of how these fixtures have gone. But last year, Limerick winning 228 to 18 points. We had the draw in 23, which is 25 apiece. Limerick winning 321 to 23 points back in 02. In 21, we had Limerick 229, Tipperary 321. That was the Munster final where it looked like Tipperary were going to edge them, but Limerick came out with that awesome second half. And then you go back to the Munster semi-final in 2020, which was the knockout year, when Limerick won 323 to Tipperary's 217. So there you go. 23, 24, 21, 20, 24. Limerick unbeaten against Tipperary. It's a very, very impressive record. That's intimidating, Murph, when it comes to this, because Tipperary obviously need a response going into this off the back of the league final, I would say. As much as they might say that they didn't lose the second half against Cork, they did lose the second quarter in that final in Páirc Uí Chaoimh the weekend before last. And I think Tip need a response, and playing Limerick, their bogey team, is not the best team to be going to try and get a couple of points here.
It's not, no. And look, the draw is what it is, and Liam can look at this and say, look, we have to play whatever team is in front of us on any given day. Absolutely fine. But I'm sure they would have preferred to play another team that maybe they're looking to take points off. I don't see them beating Limerick here. Not to jump ahead to my prediction, but I don't see them beating Limerick here in this capacity. It's very hard now we're into championship to go, okay, to see anything other than Limerick starting to really up the gears here. And just off the back of the league final, again, if that league final was a little bit closer than what it was and Cork weren't as dominant, you'd be saying, well, okay, Tipperary are in a good position here to go at Limerick. But maybe Cork just exposed a small bit more of the frailties that we hadn't seen during the league with this Tipperary team. And they also did a few things that we hadn't seen as of yet in terms of just for this year. Like Darren McCarthy was kept very quiet, but he'd been excellent for the whole league. So I'm not putting it on him. There was other players as well. Like Ronan Maher was the best player by far for Tipperary that day. But there was a few players kind of kept a little bit more quiet. What's the reason for that? Hard to know. They would have felt they didn't perform that day. But you'd imagine now turning around and facing into Limerick. There's not many things you can pick holes of in Limerick to say that, well, lads, that's how we're going to target them. Like, this is just going to be an all-out, has to be like an all-out performance attack. I believe Tipperary will come. Like, the one thing we have seen from Tipperary is that they have been bringing a nice bit of aggression. They've been getting stuck in. They haven't been starting games poorly at all. So I expect them to start this game really well and ask a good few questions of Limerick. I actually expect this to be fairly tit for tat for quite a bit. But I think what we're going to see in this game is Limerick just wearing down Tipperary that small bit, maybe into the second half. I know we traditionally talk about second half with Tipperary and Limerick.
But even this year, Murph, the scores dried up from playing the last half hour of the league meeting between them this year as well. So it's not a case of, say, where Limerick have put the hammer down, particularly when Limerick were at their absolute strongest. Tipperary have faded out of games against Limerick. Again, I'm not sure the exact reason, but it's clear that's what's been happening. Yeah,
and even it's fair to say that Limerick weren't exactly flawless either in the league as well. So it's not a case to say that Limerick were so overpowering against Tipperary. Like on the evening, they might have been quite good, but we saw that Limerick themselves weren't happy themselves with their own performances throughout the league. So it was a Limerick that was there that if you stayed at it and you were capable of performing against them, there was scores to be gotten there. Certainly, regardless, if you think you're going to go and beat Limerick this weekend, things like that where you're going scoreless for 30 minutes, like you can't be going doing that. So even if the nights you're not playing good, you should still be, not going without a score from play for 10 minutes. Those things can't be happening in 12 minutes. So look, for the weekend, the big part about Limerick is the fact that last time we saw them, we didn't see them against Wexford really because there wasn't much coverage of it. We saw them against Kilkenny to an extent. We haven't seen what we would view as their full 15 out. We will obviously see that closer to the weekend. And I think once we see that, it'll be a fair reminder of, okay, well, that's seriously impressive what Limerick still have. And I think once they have closest to their 15 on the field, that's when we start to see that little bit of a click. I don't expect Limerick to be perfect out at the weekend either because, again, I don't think any team can just turn it on. But I do expect them that they're in a much better position than Tipperary to really go and put in a solid performance in this game, get a win, and move on to the next game. And I just think that now, if Tipperary really believe that, they have turned the corner and they're in a position to go at Munster, well, here's the game for you and off you go. But I just don't see that at the moment, and particularly not off the back of the Cork game.
Yeah. A man from Danesfort was throwing out hot takes. Maybe it wasn't even a hot take because a lot of people agreed with him, Skehill, last week. It wasn't Murph this time around. It was Richie Hogan, his clubmate. Said that
how did I not think of Richie?
Yeah. I wasn't some random, I might have said some random guy from your club.
I was sure it was. Well, you read from the comments there a minute ago, so I was thinking, after sending a comment. Go on, yeah, sorry.
Richie Hogan on Monday claimed that Ronan Maher would be the only Tipperary player who would make this Cork team. Is he right or wrong, Scott?
Why do you ask me that?
Because
trying to get me killed.
We've already had one Kilkenny man throw this out here. Let's go to a neutral.
He's I didn't hear it now, Willie, but
he reckons that Ronan Maher will be the only starter on the Cork team who's currently playing for Tipperary.
Can you give me 10 seconds so I have to run through all the team?
You can.
Yes. Okay, he's doing silent.
So he's right.
No, let him think about that. I'll tell you how intimidating Limerick's record is under John Kiley in the Championship, by the way. So look at this earlier on. So they've played 44 Championship games under Kiley. They've won 32 of them. They've only lost 9.
Mm.
And I would say a couple of them been in the group stages, obviously, in a couple of semi-finals. Then
in Championship?
Yeah.
They've only lost 9. Okay, yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane. 3 draws along the way as well.
But I didn't want to say I was on the field for 2 of those 9, but
I had a feeling that was coming up.
I was going to say this is like a red rag to a bull now. I can picture that fella down in Dolan's last year now with his Garrod Hegarty flag hitting the roof now over this. But anyway,
hey go.
Yeah. So 3 semi-final defeats and Paul Murphy involved in 2 of them. But go on.
Richie Hogan, I think, is correct. I think Ronan Maher is in the half-back line alongside Mr. Downey.
Who are you leaving out of the half-back line?
I'm going on the league team. Cormac O'Brien. That's it. at the moment. Come on, in fairness, fair is fair. I went through the rest of the Tipperary team, and I think credit where credit is due. You're not budging the Cork, because for you to get in ahead of a Cork player at the moment, you have to be, noticeably better than them at the moment. And I just don't see. Even though I did give Hogan the team in the league, but would I replace him in the Cork team? No, I wouldn't.
There's also one of those funny ones where Tip have got a lot of their best players, I would say, from midfield up, with obviously the exception of Rowan Mara being a brilliant defender. They have a lot of their best players in the forward line. And so therefore you're up against Cork, who have been the forward line so far this year.
Yeah, but in my mind, second for me is Brian O'Mara.
Yeah, great
player. I know you might agree now, but I think
he's a great player.
I think Tip's second best player at the moment across the league. Like fine was Brian O'Mara. I think he was very good.
Well, you've plenty of lads performing to really good standard. It's not disparaging to say that Ronan Mara is the only fella at the moment that'll fit in, but it's more of a reflection of how strong Cork are at the moment. Like Alan Tynan has been hurling really well for Tipperary. Mikey Breen has had a really good league, really powerful, but you're almost comparing them similar like for like players. Like Alan Tynan is quite like Shane Barrett in the way that he plays. Very powerful, gets stuck in, gets a lot of really good scores. Shane Barrett's flying it at the moment, so you can't really detract from any of those lads. And I just think there's quite a few like for like players, and when you match them on form at the moment, Cork are the form team. And it'd be interesting even if you put it against other teams. Like if you put it against Galway, against Kilkenny and all this, the numbers will be fairly high as well, because Cork are just going really well at the moment. And that's basically it. Trying to think of anyone else, like Darren McCarthy has had an outstanding league. Would you put him in instead of Hayes, Connolly, Horgan? You can't at the moment.
No.
Do you know? No, and that's not to say picking as we did team at league. That's different to saying, right, tomorrow you are now manager of a Cork Tipperary combined team. And if you just go on it there, Ronan Mara just at the moment. That's all it is.
Good save there, Murph.
No, it's very delicately put. And again, similarly, I think there's loads of good players there. Like, you're probably not picking Morris in over Barrett again, or over Fitzgibbon. You're probably not picking Garrod O'Connor over some of the other options that are available in the Cork forward. Like, there's loads of good players in that Tip team. I don't think it is actually disparaging at all to say that, but
no.
Wouldn't unsettle Cork players at the moment. Again, by all means, rip this apart in the comments and say why we're horribly wrong and so on. I can't, in this one, lads, when it comes to predictions, I can't really look past Limerick. So there's Limerick going for 7 Munsters in a row, by the way. Which is incredible. I think they get off to a win start. Murph, do you see Tip winning?
No, I go with Limerick again for this one. I just said it already. I think you'd just be reaching a small bit more just to say that the argument as to why Tipperary are actually going to beat Limerick here. Now, even with Limerick finishing the league the way they did, I just still believe, and I think it's respect for Limerick over the last few years. Like you said, they're going for 7 in a row. Like, I mean, you can't just deny all that. They haven't had an exodus of players out of the dressing room. They're still the same team. So no, for me, it's Limerick. And do you know what? It'll be some grenade thrown into the Munster Championship if Tipperary do go out the weekend. Do you know? And as a neutral, you'd be going, Jesus mighty if it happens.
Yeah. And then what would happen is you'd have every doubt. People would be saying, maybe the lads coming in for Limerick aren't as good as you thought. You're in the middle of the league, and now maybe there's pressure on some of the old heads and all that type of stuff. What about you, Skehill? How are you going for this one?
Big thing for me is Limerick's player availability. Have they got the big names available? And if they do, like if the likes of Hayes is playing and lads who were carrying injuries throughout the latter stages of the league, are they available? Are they good to go? Have they got minutes in training over the last couple of weeks since Limerick got knocked out? And if they do, like Limerick are just, for me, they're a better unit. Like I think they're tactically advanced above every team in the country. Their ability to attack your set piece, their ability to attack your puck out, their ability to create their own puck out, their shots, how many shots they get in games. These are all noticeable traits from Limerick that don't deviate regardless of player availability or personnel.
Not to put words into your mouth here, but if all the teams are at their very best level, for you, are Limerick still the team to beat?
So if the teams are at their very best level, are Limerick the team to beat? Yes, because we've seen Limerick's best level, and Limerick's best level is shit hot. Now, are Cork getting there? They're certainly providing evidence to show it, yeah. But Cork have to run through a championship in the same manner that Limerick did for 4 years in a row. You said your question was team's very best level. Limerick's very best level has been awesomeness. That's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair. But Cork, as I said, they have the ingredients to get there someday. So, but still, in the same breath, come back to the game at hand here. It's just if Limerick, have the clientele on the pitch, they're a better unit. Let's just be honest about it. They're a better unit. And if you're saying how are Tipperary going to take down Limerick, right? How would you take them down? So you have to nullify their attack, which is extremely difficult, right? You have to be excellent on your own set piece in terms of gaining possession, your own puck out. historically, when Tipperary go bad against Limerick, and I mean really bad, they can't win their puck out. They're not able to win it. They can't work short. They get hammered long. Go back to the league final. Tip couldn't win their puck out, particularly in the second quarter. They couldn't get their puck out going. Cork hammered that, turned them over, points and goals. If Limerick can top your puck out and you can't get your own primary position, you're in a lot of bother. So when I'm looking at likes of a tip team and the same kind of theme happens, they hit Limerick with 100-mile-an-hour pace, high intense work rate, honest endeavour, perfect, love it. That only lasts so long. You then have to get into your slick skill, skill-based players that do the damage for you on the scoreboard. And so you have to open up Limerick as opposed to run them down. And open up Limerick is not that simple. You know what I mean? So, like with the team who took them down last year, Cork, managed to open them up. With remember the tactic, lump it long, and we see how we get on. You know what I mean? And like it works because they had it down to a T in terms of hitting the line of pace. I can't see Tipperary doing that, to be honest. I can't see Tipperary replicating the type of game plan that Cork did last year twice, personally. So, if you're looking for a shout, it's Limerick, and I just can't see how Tipperary are going to beat them. And like I say here, I sit back now, and I'm just fast forwarding fucking 6 days time, and I could be sitting this chair here after Tip 8 and Limerick 3 points, and I won't be able to justify it. But I give that honestly, I give it a 10% chance.
Yeah.
I think it's Limerick by 5 or 6 here.
Yeah, because again, I'm not trying to shade in Limerick, but Championship really heats up if Tipperary were to beat them. And next thing you have Limerick who are wounded and they have to, win the rest of their games. Next thing it becomes really, really intriguing. So from a neutral point of view, that'd be some way to start the Championship. Weirdly, the pick for the TV on Saturday, the group games between Kilkenny and Galway, for me anyway, watching it, felt a little bit tame at times. This is the 3:45 game. It's on RTE2. We talk more about the handshakes a few years ago with Cody and Shefflin than we have what actually happened in the matches. We had a good Leinster final. Sorry, Skehill, for bringing this up, the late Buckley goal one, which was fun. But we've had a lot of tame affairs, Murph, between these two counties over the last while. And a large part of that, with the exception of last year where Galway didn't get out of the group, it's because I always got the feeling when these two teams meet early in the group stages that they both kind of half think they're going to meet again in the final. And so we haven't maybe had that full intensity. Is that fair?
Sorry, with the it's not half think.
It's genuine, is it?
Fully think they're going to be in the final again.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is it a thing though that either team actually goes out? It's not a conscious thing. I think it's a subconscious thing where both teams, I think, actually want to go out and perform really well, but they can't deny that there's an underlying current of, even if we don't win today, we're still going to go out and come out of the championship. I think it is that, and it's also the thing of the Leinster Championship. I can't remember if we've even discussed. We have definitely discussed it before. The fixtures first, if this game was towards the far end, you'd be going, Jesus, brilliant. Or I don't know, even in the middle where maybe there's been a few shaky results for one team or the other. When it's a blank canvas and it's Kilkenny and Galway, I'd agree with you. We've just seen too many dead rubbers, too many flat games. There's potential. If I'm looking at this, there is potential for it to spark into life for this weekend because Galway won't be happy with how they finish the league. Kilkenny will be happy, obviously, beating Limerick. But if they don't beat Limerick, it's quite a poor league, and they'll be very disappointed, particularly with the defeat against Tipperary. So, Derek Ling will be coming at it going, well, we want to come all guns blazing and keep that good momentum we had from Limerick, from going away in the training week then to Portugal or wherever, and then beat Galway. That's a nice little few weeks done there that kind of gives a panel a bit of confidence. For Micheál Donoghue, he's going to be saying, okay, we started the league poor. Match 2, 3, and 5 were really good. And then there's a kind of a little bit of I don't know what really happened there. So they're going to be coming going, lads, we already bet Kilkenny inside Nolan Park. Let's go and do it again. So there is actually, I do think there's potential here. Maybe I'm being overly positive. Maybe I'm being glass half full. The last few years it's been cat. There hasn't been much you can take from it. Yeah. But there is potential here, I think, given that the way both teams had, or the league, the way they had it, that they might go into this game and it might just spark into just a really good match. I'm not expecting this match, even though it's Kilkenny and Galway, to be as good as the other two in Munster. And I think the big nature that we mentioned it earlier is just that both of these teams I expect to come out of. There's not that no safety net that even if they lose this game. That's the big problem. But I'm still holding out hope that potentially this might break into a serious hurling match at some stage.
Here's hoping. I mean, there's been a sequence of results here which are, I won't say strange, but maybe speaks to what Kilkenny do when they get further into the year. So the last 3 times these teams have met in the Leinster final itself, so 20, 22, 23, Kilkenny have won the final. Well, Galway have got a really good record in the round robin. Haven't lost to Kilkenny in the round robin. There's been wins and a draw in there. So they draw in 24, draw in 23, sorry. And they won in 18, 19 and 22. And we didn't knock out the 2 years previously. So it tends to be a case scale of Galway go reasonably well in these games in the round robin. And then Kilkenny, I won't say if their house in order, but you know exactly what I mean. When they get a bit further into it, Kilkenny sniff a bit of silverware and generally tend to win the final meeting between the teams.
Yeah, I think bar the final where Killian Buckley got the last second goal, Kilkenny just seemed to have been a level above Galway. So to be honest, we do know it's not the same stakes in Leinster as it is in Munster. From my perspective, anyway, looking at Kilkenny and Galway, there's no sense of do or die, and that was. I know they won't admit it. I know they definitely won't, but management and players would admit that would be seep into them somehow. Yes, they're going down for a contest into a lovely venue against a proud county. But still, we'll both be fine. You know what I mean? That's the kind of attitude. And you can call that cockiness, arrogance, call it whatever you want. I just call it reality.
Simple it's just reality. Like one of the things that's running to you, sorry to cut across the scale, one of the things I say, the way of looking at it, like the panels know this as well from the point of view that, let's say if you had a key player on either side that was carrying a bit of an injury going into this game at the weekend, either manager would say, listen, if you're in any doubt, you're not playing because we're going to need you for around the Leinster final, because we're aiming for the Leinster final. If you compare any of the teams at Munster, if they're looking at that going, it's our first round this weekend, we have Tipperary, we have Clare, we have Cork, we have Tipperary, Limerick, whatever. You're going, Jez, we need you on the pitch. Do you know that sort of way? Like, as in, if are you capable of playing? Yeah, because it's important we get the win now. And I think that probably sums it up in terms of what the feeling is. And the managers know it. The managers will want the teams to hurl well. But if they had a key player, if Cathal Mannion is in doubt for the weekend, Cathal Mannion, you're not playing. If Owen Keddy is, do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I think when you put it down like that, you go, well, there you are. That's the reality.
I think the public is well more to know it too, because if you I don't know what's sold for the weekend in terms of tickets for Saturday. Like, if you look at Nolan Park, will Nolan Park be full on Saturday? No. I can bet your bottom dollar it won't be, let's say. Will it be half full? Probably. Like, I'm expecting attendance in Nolan Park of around the 7,000 or 8,000 mark. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Which I think is fair. But if you go to Thurles for Tipperary and Limerick, regardless of who's perceived to win that game, will there be 13 in it? Oh, yeah. Probably will be. Like, will Clare and Cork be full? Absolutely. 100% full. Because they're expecting a titanic battle, a do-or-die type battle. Now, you might say it's not do-or-die, but that's the way that it's perceived to each county. In Galway, this situation is not. And the better game historically has been Nolan Park too. The games in Pearse Stadium have been drab affairs, to be fair. And I just think that Galway have put up what they put up against Kilkenny in group stages, but then Kilkenny have been a level above us. And I'm not ashamed to admit it. That's just reality. Kilkenny went on and contested Ireland finals, and we didn't. So,
by the way, Skehill, I found a man from Salt Hill who agreed with you about Salt Hill. I was talking to John Maher, the Galway forward, footballer, and I said, "It must be great to play at home and be playing in your club stadium and just a bit down from where you live. I prefer playing in Tuam."
Go ahead.
My man, John. He's the first man to openly back me in that.
What was it you said about Tuam again? What was the allure?
He preferred it because he said tighter ground, and also he preferred the fact that it's less open to conditions for it to go wrong. Like, where it can be really, really windy. He was talking about the Donegal game earlier this year where it was pretty much a 20-point wind between the two teams. He was saying, I love Salt Hill, but Fitzgerald Stadium mightn't be the thing that I love about Salt Hill. So just thought it was funny. He had a bit of back in their scale at last. I thought it was going to be the hurling community would all go, I'd prefer to be in Athenry, I'd prefer to be in Ballinasloe, I'd prefer to be over that side. And all the footballers would go, oh, no, I love Salt Hill. That's magnificent and the best venue ever. They like Tuam. So there you go.
Yeah, well, yes, well, thank you, John, because, again, if you were in Ballinasloe last Tuesday, it was a lovely event. When you think about it. And can I just say, and I'd be very harsh on Leinster Council and
go on.
County Board as a whole, fair play to them.
For giving you home games at last.
Fair play to them, because even though we were still outnumbered, don't get me wrong, it was awfully 2-1. It was just great to have a game in Ballinasloe and to see that a kind of different experience, different venue that was full. And I know, like, Leinster Council don't have to give us home games. I get that. Yeah. They don't have to let us participate in their championship. But by A, participating in the championship, and B, giving us a home game, it just becomes a different event for all people.
Yeah, I'd agree.
So fair play to them. I'd be critical, but fair play to them.
Yeah, I think eventually they need to start giving games in Antrim as well. So generally they kind of play the games in Louth. I think it'd be no harm for the teams in Leinster to make the trip up and actually play wherever Antrim want to host it.
Yeah.
So that's probably the next logical step. Before we get off the under-20 beat, you must be happy enough, Skehill. So your lads have got a bit of a break. This is the benefit for the teams. All three go through from both groups, but the benefit being if you don't go to preliminary quarter-final, you don't have to play on the weekend of the 27th, which is a quick enough turnaround. You get a bit of a break now to get ready for your... you go to a semi-final directly, don't you?
Yeah, so what happened is Galway, we topped the first group, Kilkenny topped the second group. So ourselves and Kilkenny have I think it's 5 weeks today, Will.
And I'm right in saying you avoid each other, I think, as well in the semi-final.
That's right, yeah. So you have Offaly finish second, Laois third, Wexford finish second, Dublin third. Isn't that right?
Yeah, and they crisscross against each other now.
Crisscrossed in, but the tier 2 counties come up to play Laois and Dublin respectively.
Yeah.
And then they'll play Wexford and Offaly respectively. And they'll play Cork respectively. So there's a bit of a break, and I'm not sure. Look, I don't know. Is it benefit? I don't know because last year didn't benefit us. Now we had a lot of injuries last year, but look, it was still good to be in it.
There was an argument about rustiness last year, but I know even just from chatting to Leo O'Connor, the Offaly manager at the weekend, he was saying with their injury profile and particularly with Offaly using a lot of their seniors against Dublin in the first round, that from their point of view, if they had to play the 27th, I think they would have had 3 games in a 6-day period. That's messy,
Yeah, and some players would have 4 games.
Yeah.
You consider the senior game too,
Yeah. I wouldn't be the best now. So they have a break now till early May, I think, as well. And you guys have got 5 weeks till the semi-final. So you can let all the other teams knock off each other over the next few weeks, see who comes through, and look forward to that.
We go down and battle the Cats the weekend. 20s and seniors.
Good stuff. Oh, sure, perfect. You can play each other in a challenge game, so you won't play each other before the final anyway.
That's the plan.
Why not? Yeah. So I've one of each here. So Murph, who are you going for with this game?
Kilkenny. I'm going to go Kilkenny.
Next.
Well,
Kilkenny.
I'd love if that had gone. Actually, I kind of fancy Galway. Yeah, the good win in the league against early in the year.
Really fancy Galway for this one. To be honest, and I think Skehill is going to be the same. Unless I see anything drastically different from Kilkenny or Galway, anytime these lads are going to meet, like if it's the Leinster final or whatever, I'm going to fancy Kilkenny for it. During the league, during the league? I think it was. Obviously, I tipped teams against Kilkenny, given whatever injuries were there, whatever lineup was going on, etc. But now that we're into championship and it's Kilkenny and Galway, to be honest, it's very hard to make an argument either direction, And for me, it's just a case. It's like that old Tommy Walsh one. I just really want them to win, so that's why I'm picking them. Very capable. Like Galway bet them down in Nolan Park. Kilkenny weren't impressive at all in the league in that game. But I think we always give teams the caveat in the league of that any given day, there's kind of any sort of result can kind of crop up. But now it's kind of the put your money where your mouth is situation. Like Kilkenny want to go out and win this, Galway will want to go out and win this. There's very little between both teams from what you can pull through from the league. So for me, I'm just going, Kilkenny. I'm not even going to say it because it's Nolan Park or because anything like that. I'm just saying I want Kilkenny to win. They're good enough to win. And off you go. I think that's pretty much it. I don't know what Skehill's argument is going to be, but yeah.
I have no arguments, to be honest, Murph. I'm not going to lie to you because if you ask me to pick the team right now for Galway, I can't. I can probably pick 13 of the 15 Kilkenny lads, realistically speaking. But
are you saying that you're not going to tip Galway?
No, I think this is going to be a find on your feet exercise on behalf of Galway. Of course, it's a championship, don't get me wrong. But I think the management are going to have to play a little bit of flipping roulette here and see can guys work on specific positions to see, can they go up against top level opposition and thrive. I think we're going to see some younger players, that some even 1 or 2 of the 20s, I think, are going to see them because what we've had over the last couple of rounds, hasn't sufficed. So I think what probably happened is Miguel's going to throw out a team that is not experimental, but has never been pieced together before. Do you know what I mean? And to go ahead. Now, there'll still be good players. There'll still be very good players in the team, don't get me wrong. But in terms of structure, where they're going to play, I don't know. First and foremost, I don't know who's going to be in goals. Who's going to be full back? I don't know. I can make a guess at it, but I don't say it with 90% confidence. So when I put all that together, I'm saying we're going up against Kilkenny, who the team at the moment are seasoned, bar 1 or 2, obviously, Mark, right? So I'm saying, can we take them down? The potential is there, but would I say it with certainty? No, I can't. So
it's an unusual situation as well, Skehill. I appreciate that obviously Gavin Lee has worked out, but you're looking at effectively a player who's moved in at 6, a lot of movement at 3, including a late enough in the league change at 3 as well, when it appears it was going one way. Goalkeepers have rotated throughout. So 3 of your key positions right down the spine of the team, it's either a player who's rookie in the position for the year, we're not quite sure how they're going to go at 3, and it's who knows who the goalkeeper is going to be. Well, that's not the three players you want uncertainty in.
No, it's not. I agree with you wholeheartedly. And even Gavin Lee last year throughout the league and the championship campaign, he scored 220. So now we've taken 220 out of our forward unit. That's hard to come by these days. Do you know what I mean? And if you ask me who's going to replace him like for like, I don't have an answer. I don't know who's going to pop up with 220. Across the championship, I don't have it. So it's not as if the Gavin Lee, call to go to centre back. I agree with it. I think he's a long-term option there for Galway, potentially. I also think there's younger players in Galway coming up to the ranks that could potentially be 6, and we could, release Gavin Lee as well. But for today, I'm saying Gavin Lee is your 6. He's done relatively well. The last time he was in Nolan Park, he was excellent, I have to say.
Yeah, he was outstanding that day.
Yeah, he's excellent, but just a different set of circumstances. That was new. Now Kilkenny have been forewarned. They've been forewarned about Gavin Lee at centre back. So they're not going to give him the freedom to come forward like he did the last time.
And the ball is going to move around him differently than the league. There's no point in saying anything else. Like, that ball is going to be flying past you. We're getting into summer hurling now. Like, in the league, I've been there where it suits the back. The ball lands. Where that ball lands, invariably it doesn't go too far away from that. At the moment, it's gone. Yeah, stuck in the mud. You run out. You stand on the ball. You drive it into the ground. Whatever. But at this stage now, it benefits the provider or the distributor of the ball that you can avoid the centre back if you want to avoid him. So his job becomes harder now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think our half back line against Kilkenny in the league got 5 or 6 points from play.
They did, yeah. Park Banyan was very good the same
day. Will that happen again? Jeez, I don't think so. I don't think so. So I just think there's a few key traits that have been, are now forewarned towards Kilkenny, saying like they could potentially nullify those. And in the same breath, we have potential. Of course we do. But I don't know with any degree of certainty that potential will come to fruition on Saturday. I just don't.
Yeah.
And I hope I sit here now Sunday evening, right? Or whenever we record next and say, geez, that was a very complete performance by a new Galway team, but I just don't know. So if you ask me who to call for, the safe bet is go Kilkenny. Of course I want Galway to win, but you'd be leaning towards Kilkenny. If my money was to go somewhere, and I was going in hope, I go with Galway. If I was going in expectancy, I go Kilkenny.
Yeah. By the way, this is like live production pod right now. I kind of hope we do Sunday evening and we kind of tap into the excitement of the games that were on Sunday afternoon, and then we can all go off and enjoy our bank holiday night on the Sunday if we record early.
We'd have to go early because myself and the sister are doing this High Rock simulation on Sunday, right?
High Rocks, right? Go on.
And what stage are the points happening? Go on.
We have David Gillen's engagement party in the evening then.
Oh, Jesus.
I love the way you try to put in the little, I'm actually doing a big race there, but I knew there was points coming somewhere there.
We could record from Maisie's in Athlone if we wanted to.
Oh, Lord. Right. Let's have a think. It sounds like it's bank holiday Monday and slightly hungover scale. Look, not the end of the world if we do that. Works out nicely for Davey. His match is on Saturday afternoon, so you can ease off a little bit then. McDonagh Cup. By the way, I didn't see any McDonagh Cup games down on Clubber this weekend. I had heard that they were going to be on Clubber, but at time of writing, I haven't seen any of them down. So I'll update as we go through the week on that one. We've 2 other games to look at which also aren't going to be televised. And also, I've just had an idea as we're, again, going through this. So we've been chatting for over an hour now at this stage. I think we've still got 2 games to do. If it's okay to members, by all means, come email me or DM me and give out about us not doing a separate pod for today. I think what we do is, for members, anyone can throw in a question to us, whether it be on Spotify, send me a message on either Instagram or on Twitter, or send me an email, and I will put it to the 2 lads. We'll do an extra members pod next week. As in, we'll do one with just a load of questions in it, if that's fair, rather than us doing one this week, because it's like a big championship preview. Does that sound fair enough to the 2E?
Yeah.
Okay.
That sounds scrumptious, yeah.
Sounds scrumptious, yeah. We'll get to bed before midnight, because I was up at 2 o'clock last night watching Butler's Cabin, because I couldn't go to sleep after Rory McIlroy won.
Yeah. Was that an excitement, was it?
Oh, no, Skehill, no. And I hate to get into this, but maybe this is members pod territory. So they have this ceremony at the end, right? So Jim Nance, who, again, you probably see on NFL, he kind of dovetails between 2 sports, does a bit of NFL, and he does the golf for CBS as well.
Very good, doesn't he?
Great. I love Jim. And so, again, he goes into Butler Cabin at the end of it, which is one of these traditions that they have at Augusta, which is this really creepy, looks like a TV set.
Google this now, sorry.
And everyone feels remarkably uncomfortable when they're in there. So what happens?
Quiet. It's so quiet, Will.
It's so weird. And what they do
everybody
is,
speaks very softly. Sorry to cut across you.
Yeah, they don't want to disturb Butler Cabin, it would seem. And so what tends to happen is you get the amateur champion golfer, gets his medal in there, I think, as well. And then last year's champion, in his green jacket from the year before, is there to present the green jacket onto the winner. and they have a chat with Jim, and they also have a chat with somebody from the Augusta committee, whose name I can't remember now at the moment. And last night, Jim was trying to make Rory cry. He was playing all the cards like.
Oh, he was throwing his parents at him and everything.
Yeah, do you remember when Mum and Dad had to sell a few things to make sure you could get golf membership and get golf clubs?
Remember when they shopped Bambi, Rory?
And it's always so weird and awkward, Skehill. I really hate it. I much prefer when he gets out and he gets presented with the trophy and all that type of stuff. That's much better. But Butler Cabin is weird. But I couldn't sleep because I was so excited after the golf. I stayed up, so I'm on about 4 hour sleeper at the moment.
One of the greatest sequences as well, by the way. I know we're getting back into the golf. Rory's walk from the 18th to Butler Cabin, outstanding. It's like a film. It's like a dream. Skehill, if you haven't watched that yet, ridiculous. So he collapses onto the ground. He walks from the 18th to the, and the crowd are going mental, and it's a camera following him, and he's balling and he's walking and it's everything. It's class. It'll be one of the sporting images you see for decades. It's top class.
I have a proper look at it after this because there's a lot going on in the walk. So you've got a few of his coaches are there. Himself and Shane Lowry have a bear hug. They've been like best mates since they were teenagers. Run all the Ireland junior teams together. I'd say Lowry was getting ready with the pints the minute that the green jacket was on him.
I'd say 8 pints in.
Then you've got Rory's at one stage a strange wife, but now their marriage is back together, and his daughter, and they came out. And it's a bizarre moment where he's hugging his daughter, right? And some guy is looking for a fist bump, which I just thought was absolutely incredible. Some guy actually puts out his hand. Now, he's totally denied. McIlroy is not going to do that. But it's so weird. Your man was left hanging, like looking at him walking by. And then he hugs, I think, Justin Rose's wife as he goes by as well. Justin had lost the playoff.
Tommy Fleetwood as well.
Tommy Fleetwood's family were there, and they were playing with Lowry and himself for the par 3 competition. It's wholesome and lovely and wonderful. And McIlroy is battling back the tears, I think, all the way to Butler Cabin as well. So, well worth the watch.
Crying. Were you crying? You were. It's okay with it.
No, I wasn't crying, but I was a bit emotional about it.
It was class. The whole thing was class.
More if you were crying. You shed a tear.
No, I didn't. I was feeling it though. I didn't cry. Like, I mean, your man got 4 million. I'm not going to cry about a man who won 4 million. Like, Jesus. And everything else that goes with it, like, you know.
My missus will cry at Anthem on television.
Well, do you know what I said to Aileen? So we were watching it last night, right? And this is another thing I was saying. So Agar, or Ogar as it is, it's an A with an O over it, but isn't it Ogar? Isn't that
Norwegian?
So,
yeah, the Norwegian guy. Or whoever. Actually, I don't even know where he's from.
Ludwig Aberg,
Aberg.
He doesn't mind if you mispronounce his name because everyone does anyway.
But he went into the bunker on the 18th and he basically spanked it into the edge of the bunker and it came back to him. And Aidan was looking at it going, "Oh yeah, Jesus, that's not great." Now I said, "Not great." I said, "It could cost him about 800,000." And she was like, "What?" I was like, "Well, he's third at the moment. He's now dropped a shot. He's about to go up now from a really hard position. He's probably he ended up 3-putting it." And I was like, yeah, so he would have got 1.4 million if he came third. He's now 7th, so he's getting 700,000. Still not bad, but in terms of, like, imagine Skehill now, you were there going, you're poking out the ball, you landed on Canning or you landed on Cathal Mannion. If it lands on Mannion, you're getting 700,000 less. It's like, that's a stinger now. Do you know?
Okay.
So, like, that was like just going, like, you know, when they're finishing up and you're like, well, he's not going to win it. He's not going to win it, but he's a lot of money he can win here. Like,
feeding the family here.
That's it.
But that's it. And for some of those lads, it's like this paycheck, like if they run into a big drought of not winning for a while, this covers it. But anyway,
by the way, it's a massive amount of world ranking points as well. That's the other thing. Okay. These majors are like so amplified with the amount of points that you get. So again, if Ludwig Aberg had stayed in the top 3 and had pushed it in any kind of way, he goes way up the world rankings even more than he is now. And that takes the pressure off when it comes to the rest of the season.
Can I? Sorry, to throw in one last thing now.
Yeah, sure.
I found it really interesting. Right. So, did you know that there? You surely know this well. There's one club member that will go out to play while the professionals are playing. Skehill, if you're watching it, you mightn't cop it, but people who watch golf would actually see it. Where there's one guy on the course playing, you're like, who is that guy? Basically, if there's an odd number of people make the cut for the Saturday or whatever, they don't send out one person on their own. They're like, well, geez, we can't send out Hideki Matsuyama on his own. So they send out a club member with them just to kind of keep that little bit of balance of not everybody's just staring at you going around. I think there's a few reasons for it. But they pick the best club player in Augusta. So like they just get to send out an amateur guy who has membership in Augusta. Now, he might be a member in Augusta, but he's from Florida or he's from wherever. But he gets to go around and he's actually a really good golfer. And like I've seen interviews of where golfers have been interviewed afterwards and they're like, I'm the professional. And this guy is just burning it up going around the course, like shooting 6 under, putting pressure on lads, like, you know. But I found that out this year. Jeez, I thought it was very
He
interesting.
also had the most Irish name possible as well, Michael McDermott this year.
Oh, yeah.
Mike.
So it's the second time in 3 years he was out with Tim Kim for the third and fourth round because, again, Kim was the odd number that made the cut because he was within 10 shots of the leader, which is the old tradition. If you are within 10, you get to play the weekend. So, yeah, there you go. Mr. McDermott, I'm sure had a wonderful weekend. 2 times in 3 years he's got to play the championship course at Augusta, which is absolutely remarkable, really. Yeah. He's a scratch golfer as well, so it's not like he's a bad golfer. It's not like if you're Tim Kim and you're going around, you got this guy absolutely hocking the ball all over the place. This guy's going to play pretty well. So
yeah. He's actually like from like Pennsylvania or somewhere, so like they flew him in to so it's not like a case that he lives 2 miles down the road and they're just bringing in Joe Soap to start hitting balls around the course. Like they fly him in.
I know how to get Skehill back in. I promise we'll get off the golf and we'll talk about Wexford Antrim in a second. JJ Watt played Augusta off the members' tee boxes today.
Oh,
decent golfer. Despite being 240-pound NFL star, former NFL star now. Part owner of Burnley, I think as well. I think I'm right in saying.
Yeah.
And he shot. I think it was 121 was the score.
Oh Jesus!
So you got McIlroy going around.
What's a par?
Par is 72.
Oh, okay. 50 over. Okay.
Yeah, but I suppose the point being, even though he's a low enough handicap golfer, it just goes to show how difficult it is with the pin positions out for the fourth round.
Yeah.
It just puts it into context when these guys, in Justin Rose's case, going into the mid-60s in his last round, that JJ Watt hits double his score.
Yeah.
JJ, you're shit.
There you go. Say it to his face is what I would say to that one.
No.
He's regularly in Ireland as well, but there you go. So Wexford Antrim, lads. Here you go, Skehill. Davies return with another team to the championship. Antrim won last year, as you remember, at Corrigan Park. Stunning result, 222 to 220. That was the Gleeson era, though, for Antrim. I was not taken by Antrim whatsoever in the league. And I think that they played quite poorly in their away games, particularly against Dublin. We saw the game against Offaly on the telly. Even though they got a result against Carlow and they were able to beat Laois and Westmeath to stay up, I thought overall it was a poor enough league campaign from them. I can't see them beating Wexford. And I don't mean this to get into direct prediction territory, because Antrim's away record has been appalling. And I do not see them going down and winning Wexford Park, even taking what happened last year.
I don't see them coming within double figures. Sorry.
Really?
Yeah. I think this is going to be a Wexford plus 9, minus 9, sorry, 9 or 10 point victory. Simply because, like say, if you're looking at Antrim, right, and the games we've seen over the course of the league, I would look at teams and say, is their fundamentals on point? You can get opened up with tactics, you could have player availability, lads missing, that's all fine, right? But is your fundamentals on point? And they were not, lads, right? I just can't get the Offaly game out of my head, Will. The Offaly game where their basics were absolutely shocking, like really, really shocking. There was no, clear direction or plan. You couldn't understand how they were trying to play, let's say. And then you say, right, that could be a once-off, And you keep going and say, it's not a once-off, it's a regular occurrence. So you're going down to a team now who has aspirations of getting out of Leinster into a Leinster final. And credit to Rostra. I have to give him credit. We had our questions. Me personally had questions about Wexford at the beginning. And they rallied hard. They got two victories when I didn't expect them whatsoever against two top Munster teams. Regardless of position in the league, regardless of the situation in the league at that point, right? They still did really well against those two teams. So they showed major potential at home. With a team coming down that has no run in, a manager that doesn't seem to have a clear plan put in place as yet. And as I say, fundamentals not right. It all leads towards 10-point loss, more. No, I can't see it. There's no evidence whatsoever to say that Antrim can go down. First of all, be competitive, because that's been their crux over the last number of years. When they go away, can they be competitive? And more often than not, it's been they haven't been. They're obviously, we know that they're most competitive at home. They're not at home. They have to travel a good distance down. So I don't see this one going anywhere near Wexford any more than any less, I said, than 9-10.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, well, Murph, after what happened last year with Wexford in Belfast, there's no risk of any kind of complacency here or overlooking Antrim. They're going to be right up for this.
Yeah, like Wexford can't afford to be complacent. I think Wexford were only complacent coming into this if they had a really good league, and Antrim were very poor, and we've seen it from Wexford. Like last year, Wexford were up by 6 points, 10 minutes to go against Dublin. They let it slip. They've been beaten by Westmeath. There's been a few incidents where Wexford, but off the back of Wexford, they're delighted to have Lee Chin back. agree with Skehill. 2 really good wins on the road. I'm not saying anything. Not to say I'm not saying anything about Clare or Limerick. Skehill put it that it doesn't matter who was out there on that day. They went and played 2 really good Munster teams and they won.
Yeah.
They were poor against Kilkenny in the first half. They were brilliant in the second half. Just because they upped the aggression and different things. And we just didn't really know after that game where Wexford were going to go. But again, I'll double on what Skehill said there. Fair play to Roster. He's been very honest and very open in his interviews. He's been acknowledging it's been a hard job. But like, I have to give him credit. They do look like that they're heading in some sort of direction. They might necessarily do anything huge or great this year at all. They might be, it might be a while before we get that from Wexford. But they're battling hard with what they have. And I think they're going, lads, Antrim are coming to town. Let's forget about the league. Antrim are coming to town and, we want to win here now. And whatever games that we're expected to get a win from, which they are expected to get it from this weekend against Antrim, let's take it from that and let's build on that and have a positive. And then we'll see where the other games take us.
I go one step further than that. If they don't win this, they're not going to qualify.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, of course.
They have to take out, to take out Antrim and they have to take out Offaly. And then Dublin is the other game that they probably need to win.
Yeah.
But if they lose this one, I think it's too difficult for Wexford to qualify. They have to win.
It is, yeah, and it's not like where we'll go back 5 years ago, and let's say Antrim lose to Wexford, but you go, okay, well they have Dee O'Keefe and they have Liam McGovern, they have Liam Ryan, Liam Ryan's trying to come back, but they had the clientele there that we were like, well, the Bones are a really good team. The jury's still kind of out on Wexford at the moment in terms of lots of young players coming through. Fantastic for them, but still are trying to be tested. They have Foley going well there. They have plenty of lads. Lee Chin is back. They're hoping Ian Ryan is going to come back. They have a few lads there, but they're still very much in that phase where they're trying to figure out, well, what's our top standard? Where are we going to in here? So I'd agree with you. Yeah, they have to win. They have to beat Antrim. So I don't see just to go back to what you said, I don't see what circumstance they can be complacent going into this game. They just can't be. So for all those reasons, agree with Skehill. I think Wexford could rack up a 9 or 10 point win here.
All right.
I was Googling there just as you were talking about. I was just going through the results from the last previous years. Wexford have one in them. They have one banana slip each year. So
okay,
yeah, they're like you go back to
Westmeath have been 2 of them, have they?
Yeah, Westmeath draw, Westmeath defeat, Antrim defeat in the last 4
Dublin.
And I would class the Dublin loss as well as one.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying this is the one. I don't think it's anywhere near it, to be honest. But
they had 2 against Dublin. They had the draw last year, but wasn't the year previous the one, or 2 years previous the one where Dublin actually went and bet them? And there was the Danny Sutcliffe block, I think it was, and a few things in that game. Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah.
So I'm not saying this is the one, but there's one in them. So I didn't go with 2. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, I'm saying Wexford -10. Sorry.
Okay.
What are you going with?
What are you, Murph?
I said that 9 or 10, yeah. And I think, the other thing I have to say as well is, look, just to agree, to add to it there, Antrim's probably best performance was against Laois, where I think Laois were probably unhappy as well with their own performance that day. McNaughton's been really good for them. He's been really the score and influence for them. But yes, their form on the road where you're just going that, whatever about Corrigan Park, we just haven't seen the indication yet that their form on the road is in their own hands at the moment. So for all those reasons, it's very hard to look past it.
I think this is the one where, as we all know, the fixtures just reverse for the next year when it comes to Leinster with the way it's drawn. So you have them in the same order as well. So I think for Antrim, last year it was favourable that they had Wexford and Carlow at home, the 2 games that they won. Yeah. This time around, I think it's more difficult because they have to go to Wexford and they go to Offaly in the last round, which are probably going to be 2 teams fighting it out for a relegation 4-pointer in all likelihood in the last match. So I think this is a more difficult year for Antrim. I think you'd prefer not to be hosting Kilkenny and Galway, and you'd prefer to be hosting the 2 teams that you want to beat.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit more difficult. Offaly, back in the Leinster Championship, back to the scene of their last game in the Leinster Championship, which is in 2018, which is pretty miserable. They are hammered by Dublin that day in Parnell Park by 17 points, 224 to 13 points. They go back to the same venue, 6 o'clock throw-in this coming Saturday. They've been a long way out. There's an Offaly team who've played in a Christy Ring semi-final, a Christy Ring final, 2 Joe McDonagh finals in the time since. Back up as the Joe McDonagh champions. I think if Skehill, if Dublin have got aspirations of qualifying, and last year they got to the Leinster final, so why not be targeting that again under Niall O'Callaghan this season? Similar to the Wexford one, I think if Dublin are going to finish in the top 3, Dublin have to start with a win against Offaly this weekend.
Oh, of course, yeah. If they've aspiration top three, of course they are. And like even you, let's say, who would be a staunch Offaly supporter, would say that Dublin should be taken down Offaly
Oh,
in their current situations, current status in the senior game. So, like I don't think, truthfully speaking, I don't think Offaly's league campaign counts for anything in this situation. I just don't. Look, it's great to get to the league final, great to get promotion, super.
Yeah.
But this is just different level now at this stage, and. Look, I don't try to be disparaging, Will, don't get me wrong, but I would see Dublin win this by a good 5 or 6. I don't think what's going to happen. I know how Waterford stormed out to a big gap in the first half, particularly in the league final, and then obviously Dublin or Offaly rode them back in. I can't see that happening, Will. I just can't, because when you get into the heat of championship, right, and you're heading towards, let's say, minute 50, minute 55, and you start looking for introductions, come off the bench to cause a real eruption in your attack or whatever, I just don't see it at the moment for Offaly. I just don't see the panel strength to win and contest the bigger teams who have bigger numbers and squad depth. So I just think Dublin are going to mow them down, to be honest with you, for the first 50 minutes.
Yeah.
I know that sounds very bad.
No. Look, here's the thing. Bad. So Offaly won in Croke Park when the teams met. And we all remember that very late free from Dan Ravenhill, which won the game. The reality is that Dublin probably should have been home and hosed up to the point that they got down to 14 men. Particularly disappointing the way the result went, that they let it slip after they got the goal after that and still allowed Offaly to get the couple of scores to win the game at the death. Realistically, Dublin were the better team for 60-odd minutes of that match. But I respected that Offaly ground out the result. Offaly getting promoted, I think, needs to be its own thing. So they had a good campaign. They're up to 1A for next year. I think that progress is important. I think once Dublin realised, and like Dublin had to know, with a couple of games to go after they lost against Waterford, promotion was out the window. I know mathematically it wasn't up, but they knew well that if Waterford cleaned out their games, Waterford were going up alongside Offaly at that stage.
Yeah.
So therefore, Dublin have been concentrating on Championship for over a month now at this stage. And they know that they need to hit the ground running, and they need to win this home game to just kick things off. I expect Dublin to be in a much better position. I think they'll be disappointed when they look back in the league that they didn't get promoted after the good start that they had. But now that we're into Championship, I think, Murph, that Dublin are going to be a level above what we saw during the league. I don't know if that's going to be good enough to close the gap to Kilkenny, because out in the Leinster final last year, we saw a big gap between the teams. But I think Dublin have still got a very good chance of finishing top 3 this year.
Yeah, I do. I agree with that. And I think we spoke about, obviously, after Nafina winning the Club All-Ireland, we were all very interested in seeing Niall O'Keefe in terms of what way this Dublin team would set up. It was probably, once we saw the Nafina lads were going to come back during the league, certainly I said it that I thought I was going to see a big step up in Dublin. But it was probably naive to say that early, because like you said, he was more so probably looking at, I want to introduce lads here, but you're not going to saturate with bringing in all your lads back and so on. You're still going to try and find that balance, give lad chances, etc. Learn as much as you can before you go to the Championship. I give Dublin a good chance of really, I suppose, taking a very positive step forward this year. Until I see otherwise, I just, anything I've seen from Niall O'Keefe, anything I've seen from a club standard, etc. His teams play a really good brand of hurling. He seems to get really... He gets good performances out of his teams. He seems to get the most out of them, and I just like, from what I hear from when he's interviewed, he talks a lot of sense as well. And there's a lot of things there that I think Dublin might just muster something good this year. But likewise, I'd nearly compare two teams together, Galway and Dublin at the moment. In that both their managers are in their first year, and I think that I'm not writing off either of them for this year. But I think this time next year when we're sitting down here talking about these teams, I think we'll be talking about two teams that are a little bit better bedded in. So whatever Dublin do this year, I think next year they'll be even that step on. So like at the moment, it's a little bit fact-finding as well. I think it's a little bit of, I suppose, taking a step back in a positive direction to where Dublin were, a decade ago, etc. Because that's where they have the aspirations of being, in that actually being a real menace in Leinster and competing for Leinster finals. That's something that they want to do. You don't just turn that on overnight. So I think that this Dublin team is looking to make real progressions during this round robin campaign. You said it already, they have to beat Offaly. If they want to go and actually be serious and get out of Leinster, they do have to go beat Offaly. That's the bottom line. So I just think that they are that bit step ahead of Offaly at the moment. Offaly, if we're sitting here again next year, 2 years' time, whatever, this gap will close. There's no doubt about that. And that's down to Offaly improving drastically and those players maturing. But for the moment, I think you just have to give credit to the players that Dublin have. And I just think that it's, like you said, Will, that league game, I wouldn't take too much into that. I just think that Dublin will have their house in order and they'll be, I'll go 5 or 6 points better than Offaly.
Yeah. Look, I hope Offaly are competitive against Dublin and Wexford. I'm not expecting them to beat either. I think Antrim is the game in Tullamore right at the end of it, and they're not going to beat Kilkenny or beat Galway. But this is a lot of the team who come up from the Joe McDonagh. It really is a case of you need to target one or two fixtures, and that might even be energy level for one of those two fixtures, which are very winnable as well. Like, I wouldn't be totally against the idea of changing up some players for the Kilkenny game, particularly, I think, which is just before Wexford, and like having more of a go at Wexford than they're having at Kilkenny. And I don't mean that in any kind of defeatist way, but I think you got to accept that there are some games you're going to be competitive in and some that you probably won't be. And then try and get that win against Antrim at the end and stay up for next season, because
what do you see? Like, obviously, Oisin Kelly and Brian Duggan have been the two kind of big pillars in their attack, right? You know how Offaly is, they kind of went long ball in the last few minutes against Waterford.
yeah.
Is that a tactic that they might apply against Dublin, which I wouldn't do in a championship myself now? But
No, I hope not. I think they went long because they were getting some change from basically diagonals into diagonal. And I think they were hoping that, especially because when you think about it, right? So the goal, and I'm sure that the short puck out thing is going to come up over and over again throughout the championship, where, you know, Billy Nolan is genuinely going to get a ball when that hits the post and comes back in for Oisin Kelly's goal. So that was a launch and a bit of luck on it. And again, Diagon, the penalty he probably should have got came from a diagonal ball coming in. The problem was that it happened so frequently then, I felt in the last 10 minutes, that Waterford knew exactly what to do. It was almost like, we'll drop a second man back in front and we'll just take a couple of yards back, we'll protect our goal.
Man.
They need to score another goal, and then it becomes easy to pick it off and just turn around.
that's why I asked you. Because
I don't think that's their natural way of playing.
I just think Offaly should go with the pace game again. I think you should build around, if you build around the broken these lads with a pace game, you have it. I mean, if you start pumping long ball into Mitchell, Kelly, flipping diagonal, it just becomes very, lethargic. To be honest.
Do you know what, Skehill? It doesn't suit either team to play that kind of long ball. So I was watching the under-20 team play against Laois at the weekend, and I appreciate that Galway put a score up on Laois and Offaly did as well, and there's definitely a noticeable gap, I think, between the three teams that were in that group. But still, when Offaly under-20s were playing their best hurling, it was diagonal ball, getting their fast players to come out, making them difficult to mark, because we're getting good quick ball into them as well. This whole thing of floating a long ball up gives time for the other team to reset. And I think with that Dublin backline, they'll walk out with the ball all day if you do that.
Yeah. I agree.
Parnell Park's a weird one as well. You almost have to work yourself into good shooting positions within Parnell Park, I find, compared to, some of the other pitches where there's more natural space.
It's very tight in the middle.
It's weird. It's a weird ground, isn't it?
So the supply ball becomes very difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's something they're going to have to navigate. I think this is a very, very difficult game for them. I think Dublin are right to play this game in Parnell Park as well, as opposed to Croke Park. So
we're aligned and everything in terms of calls, in terms of our predictions for the weekend, by the looks of it.
Aren't we bizarrely aligned when it comes to round one?
This is boring.
Let the listeners decide that. Now, what I would say to that, Skehill, is that none of us spoke about our predictions in any way. I think I sent you the fixtures and a few bits and bobs earlier in the day, and that was it. And deliberately, I want us to go into this clean. So if someone genuinely felt, actually, Antrim on the road, they're going to 100% put in a performance we're not expecting, or if you thought that Offaly were going to win at Parnell Park or something, let that be the argument. But there's a certain element. I think the two games in Munster are harder to call. I would be very confident in our predictions for the Leinster games.
Yeah. And to be fair, like you said,
predictions for Munster.
You're confident about both yours, eh?
You said the two games in Munster are very hard to call.
Yeah.
You're very confident, are you?
Confident-ish.
I actually don't think you can say that, confident-ish. It actually completely undermines itself when you say ish afterwards.
I mean, it's like, don't get me wrong. I fully expect Limerick to come out of Semple Stadium on Sunday with a win. I'm actually expecting Cork to win against Clare. But still, if I was to watch the games on Sunday afternoon, which I will do, I wouldn't be completely surprised if you're talking about Clare and Tipperary wins.
Right.
While I think if Offaly and Antrim particularly were to win, they would be big shocks. And Kilkenny against Galway, I appreciate what both of you said. That's a bit of a coin toss. You could make an argument for either team.
Yeah. So the accumulator comes into 2-1. Jesus, for the 5 teams. It's nothing.
And picking a lot of away wins there, by the way.
Yeah. I will throw 50 on it.
Right. Fair enough. Davy Glennon's either going to have a fantastic stag or he's going to have a stag where Skehill is asking people to buy peanuts from.
The wife anyway, so it's the same thing.
Right, fair enough. Quick reminder of the fixtures then before we reconvene. Are we saying Monday now at this stage before the listeners go?
Look, let's just call a spade here, right? I'll be in no fit state, and if we do record on Sunday, I tell you, anything could happen. So it's safer if we just go to Monday.
There'll be a few sickos there now who are going, that's exactly what I want on Sunday. But maybe Monday makes sense. So Saturday, all the games in Leinster. Early start at Wexford Park, 2 o'clock, Wexford Antrim. Kilkenny Galway, 3:45, that's an RTE. Dublin against Offaly, Parnell Park, 6 p.m. Then on Sunday, 2 matches are on TV/streaming, whatever way you want to look at this. Clare versus Cork is the game at Cusack Park. That's on at 2 p.m. It's on RTE. They're showing the football, which I'm sure Skehill is going to be dying to watch, between Galway and Roscommon at 4 o'clock. He won't even touch Tipperary and Limerick in the pub. And that game is at Semple Stadium, 4 p.m. GA+. So should be a good weekend of hurling ahead.
No, they're playing.
Didn't even know. There you go. There's a man now who will be asking, you're not loan, aren't you, for the Stag?
Yes.
The Rossies will be mad.
No, it's an engagement party. There's two people there. The Stag is yet to come.
I'm telling you. Now, I'm hoping, and there's quite a few bars around which will have one screen showing one and one showing the other. I really hope if a Sunday afternoon you're not having to fight with, here lads, will you turn off the Premier League there or will you turn off the Roscommon game? Because there'll be lots of Rossies in Athlone, depending on what side of the Shannon they're from, that'll want to watch that game.
Well, considering that Canning and Davy own Maisie's, it should not be a situation whereby we're watching feckin' football or soccer. Jesus, lads, come on.
Did you not know Canning owns that?
Well, I go home.
I go home. At all, no.
How did you
Here's
know
a plug. Here's a plug for the two boys. So I expect the first couple of rounds free. Just saying that, okay? Okay.
Canning is quite the portfolio, doesn't he? Between Field that pub.
Yeah.
He's got a good golf membership, I believe.
I believe so too. The price for a round of golf is ridiculous. I just can't understand it, lads. I'm sorry.
I bet you Canning has never paid the 500 to go out in the green.
You give me that 500 today, right? I'll buy you a calf, okay? I'll turn that 500 to 1,200 within 6 months, okay?
So I tell you, I went into Maisie's in Athlone one time. I was working up that direction. I was staying up for the night, and I said, I'll just go a bit of food, get a bit of food, and I think Arsenal are playing Man City or something the same night. And I went into Maisie's, said, you know what? I'll give Canning me a shilling here now. I'll go in here now, and I'll give him the few bob. And I don't think they were showing it. I said, like, oh shite, I'm gonna have to leave here now because it was maybe 2 years ago. So I was like, Arsenal were potentially going for the Premier League at the time. No sign of it. And I was like, Jesus, well, Canning, you're not getting me pound now. So you can tell him next time. Might be Galway hurling matches, but you might need to show the odd Arsenal match.
We talk about lads listening to the podcast. He's going to hear it himself. He's a listener. Yeah, he's a listener. He's well able to tackle me about a few things. I said.
I was being an honest man that evening. I said, you know what? I'm going down to Canning's joint here now. I'll get myself an old burger. I would have bought a burger, but I said, I actually really want to watch the match here. And I can't. So.
Nice. Well,
you'll be talking to him about, let's say, the budget came out there last year. And we were talking about, jeez, the price of diesel and the price. He goes, stop, man. The price of chicken fillets.
Dare I suggest, I'd say Canning knows his way around Limerick's chicken fillet rolls from his college days.
Yeah, we all did, in fairness. So they were €2, Will. They were €2. I mean, God damn it, they were €2.
I can't believe I'm opening this up again. Is that €2 with a few fillings? Because there was a place across from work from us that used to do a chicken fillet roll for $2.50, but you could only get lettuce and tomato for the $2.50.
It was with, you could pick cheese or lettuce.
That's all right.
Yeah, with a little bit. It used to be cheese, a bit of ketchup, hot chicken roll, and cheese every day. Anyone the Jordan and looked at me and said, "You should go back to rugby."
There you go. That is the chicken fillet revelation, which we weren't expecting at the start of this podcast. James Skehill, thanking you.
Thanks, Liz. Yeah.
Paul Murphy, we'll see you on Easter Monday when we've risen again from the first round of the championship.
Talk to you then, man.